Piracy, PvP, boom, boom, explosions.
Welcome to the Mongrel Court Star Citizen Piracy Talk Show. I'm your host, Agents Letty. This month's topic of discussion is Making Piracy Work, featuring 3 guests from other pirate orgs. Now, the aim is normally to keep the discussion within an hour to make it easier to digest. However, it turns out when you get 4 pirate players to talk about Star Citizen and piracy, sticking to an hour is a little difficult. So to keep within the theme of easy to digest content for you all, we've timestamped the different discussion points for you to browse at your convenience. That's enough talking from me, though. Let's get on with the show. Alright, this is the part where you guys can see the talking heads. Thank you very much for coming along to this part, and we're going to introduce everyone. But instead of what I've done in the previous Mongrel Court sessions, I'm actually going to have the guests introduce themselves. So we'll be starting off on my far right, your left, with our first guest, Space Cutlet. Take it away.
Hello guys, my name is Space Cutlet. I'm a Pirate Space Dad, OG to this game since the Hangar module and before. I do piracy on stream. You can find me on Twitch with the same name, Space Cutlet, on YouTube with the same name, Space Cutlet, on Twitter with a space_cutlet. My majority of my gameplay revolves around the piracy. I do a lot of solo piracy, I do group piracy, whatever we call it, like whatever we want. Piracy, PvP, boom, boom, explosions. That's Space Cutlet.
Alright, Captain Dirty.
Alright, I'm Captain Dirty. I'm the leader of Chaos Squad. I also backed back in 2014, but I'm recently returning to the game middle of last year. A couple of months into returning, I formed Chaos Squad, and we've been pirating ever since, man.
Nice. CoconutJones.
Howdy, TheycallmeCoconutJones. I run a pirate org called the Black Coral Syndicate. I also started backing back in like 2013, 14, and between having a bad computer and just having to scratch the space itch, ended up playing EVE Online for a little bit. Got a really good group of friends from that whole experience and managed to Shanghai them into Star Citizen, where we've been doing small acts of piracy and PvP ever since 3.3 whatever.
Nice. And I'm Agents Letty, the host of the show, but I've already done my introduction, so we're just going to get cracking straight into the first topic. So for the month of March, we're talking about making piracy work. And the first discussion point is, what are the tools you need to make piracy work now? Feel free to jump in at any point, guys, to say what your thoughts are on making piracy work now.
Alright, are we talking like turns, or we're just smashing it together?
Just smash it together. We'll see
Right.
how it goes.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
man, you need brains first, I think. You need the understanding of the game in the first place. Like, the piracy is the thing where you gotta know all the mechanics, or majority of the mechanics, to do it. Right now it's in a desperate state because like a lot of other stuff in the game doesn't work. That's my personal opinion. As I've said it, piracy is a culmination of the combination of different aspects of the game. You have to know how trading, mining, and all that works to do the piracy. So if something doesn't work, the piracy doesn't work too. So yeah, if we're discussing the current state of the piracy and the tools, it's basically almost any ship that can carry like a little bit of cargo, so the boxes, and you go hunt the rock miners. It's anything else is very doubtful in the current state of the game because how the trading is. That's my quick thoughts on the state of the piracy right now. Feel free to add up.
Yeah, definitely trade needs help.
For sure.
Once we see trade come back, we'll see traders come back, which will be great. I think for me, two things really stand out. I would like more consistent voice comms in game. They're there sometimes they're not there. It's kind of at a state now where a lot of times I don't bother with it because it's just frankly a hassle. So I like that to not be the case. I would also like to see a way to either slow down moving ships in zero G conditions, or for us to otherwise get on board them while they're moving. That would be fantastic for piracy gameplay.
I just want to interject. One of the ideas that I've always wanted to do is like have a harpoon. Like nothing high tech. It's literally a harpoon gun that is strong enough to embed itself into the side of a ship. We connect a rope on one end and we just rope across. Nothing complicated.
That would be awesome.
Pure Drake. We're getting mounted, like we're getting the gun mounts. So we're not that far off from being able to get that harpoon gun. I'm pretty sure COG
Right.
It
Yo,
was
if-
black harpoon gun.
If we're theory crafting a Cutty Black with like 2 harpoons shooting like imagine like 3-4 Cutty Blacks that shoot harpoons in a caterpillar and start like backpedaling with the VTOLs or something to slow it down. Yeah, but I think it's like more of the imagine thing, right? And it's like I just imagine how many physical calculations has to be done for that. I think tractor beams is what we're going to get, but yeah, that's all like imagine future theory stuff. Right now, it's not there, and yeah, we gotta deal with what we gotta deal.
So it's
Yep,
interesting so far. Well, go ahead. Don't mind me.
I was just gonna say, just to add to for people like trying to get into piracy, like definitely having an understanding of the game mechanics and like the bugs. Honestly, being able to work around the bugs is probably almost one of the most important things. But as long as you've got
that is so true.
Yeah, as long as you've got the willingness to just go out and kind of be a hooligan, you can kind of wing it and figure that kind of stuff out as you go along. It's not going to be very successful or profitable because you'll probably run into a lot of issues, but you'll at least be able to figure that out.
It's
Yeah,
actually
solid
funny
advice.
that like a lot of people ask like, "Hey, Cutlet, how do you find out stuff?" Right? Because like a lot of people know me for doing a lot of science on the game and understanding the workarounds and like how to deal with certain like game mechanics, how to work around them and all that. And like sometimes it's mind blowing for people. Like it's something that is normal for me. It's mind blowing for people, and that's how like because I was always trying to like bring the gameplay to the next level, not just exploding ships, right? I wanted that because I'm a child of like games like EVE Online, Ultima Online, all that like old school
Right.
open world PvP full loot systems, right? So I always wanted this in Star Citizen, and I just gravitated towards understanding how to use the broken stuff that we have in game to actually achieve at least somewhat result. And that is exactly how you get that knowledge. You just try infinite amount of hours and times to do the stuff. You just take one lead of something semi-working, you connect like dots, and then it just comes up to life, like at least at some point.
Dirty, you had something that you wanted to say before?
Oh, I was just going to say, to follow up, that it's solid advice to, one thing that I tell all of the newer players who come to me is to figure out mining and trading, like to at least spend a couple days with each of the game mechanics to kind of figure out what you're looking for, where they're going to be, how they operate, all that stuff.
Yeah, I've always found like the best sources of intel have actually been like content creators who are trying to attract people to their channels on YouTube, where they're like, this is the best way of making, X amount of credits per hour doing trading. And then I watched that same video and I'm like, all right, I now know what, the majority of the community is going to aim to do based on the views of that particular, YouTuber. And it's always interesting, like where some of the tools, like the tools that we need to make piracy work now, the external sources that we kind of go towards, like I don't know about you guys, but like I pretty much consume as much Star Citizen content as possible. So like IRC, Star Citizen Live, calling all devs, even lore posts and things like that seem very obscure in terms of like what would be applicable to game mechanics, to try and like gain some insight into what CIG is trying to achieve when they introduce or implement new game mechanics, or like trying to predict the direction that they're going, so that I can start making better informed decisions on what I can do when I'm trying to make piracy work. Because in my mind, when it comes to like what tools you need to make piracy work now, the first thing that you need is like an attitude of just being able to push yourself forward regardless of the outcome that you experience. Because like I can't speak for you guys, but I know for a fact, like there have been plenty of times where we've failed hits, like where we've like gone into a situation where like, yeah, we'll see how it goes, and we've just got absolutely shat on from a great height. And like self-reflection and being able to sit there and deal with people pretty much taking the piss out of us and going like you guys are trash and all that, and like swallowing a bit of your own pride, and then reassessing what you've done and then pushing forward. But then also like identifying what your weaknesses, and then looking and testing. Like testing is a huge thing for us. I always for my guys, I'll always come up with a list. When we're getting a new patch coming up, I'll come up with a list of things that we're going to test, and a lot of it is things that confirmation that things are still working, and then it's new things that we know that's coming into the next patch, and we're like crazy ass ideas like can we fly a Pisces into a Hercules while it's on the move? Like, can we do that? I don't know. Could we land it on the ship on the move? I don't know. We'll try it just to see if it works. And we're kind of lucky in this sort of environment when it comes to Star Citizen right now, in the alpha environment, where we can kind of do all these sorts of tests and like investigations without really worrying about the consequences of things like death of a spaceman and things like that. But there's other, like, that's also available to other professions as well. Like they can take those risks without really worrying about what's going on. I just think when it comes to like piracy, we kind of have developed the attitude, especially the one like us who are doing it now, we've developed this attitude where it's like we're just going to keep trying. Like, we don't give up after a failure, and if things do go wrong, it's like, all right, well, how do I make this work? Because like we can see the picture, or we know what we're trying to achieve. It's just like sometimes putting all the pieces together takes a lot more effort than what some people are willing to put into. So
that's like totally, man. I can just double that so hardly. Like, it's all about the testing and ability to not give up like on an idea in the first place. Like all the EMP tests, all the QED tests, all the like desync understanding on how it works, that just comes out only after you do it like a bazillion amount of times over and over again, and nailing down how it actually works, or I would say how it actually breaks. So what's breaking, so you can work around that and understand like how to achieve a result. Yeah, it's totally the thing with the piracy, because like developers are not paying right now any kind of attention to those mechanics. So you just gotta understand how they break so you can fix them by yourself. It's crazy. Yeah,
Breaking the game is half the fun. We have a science team in Chaos Squad who's regularly trying to figure out how they can break it. We've managed to get ships and cargo inside Klesher. There's infinite ways the game can be broken, it seems like, and will
Yep.
break on you. And so you definitely, a big part of it is knowing what to expect when it comes to sometimes even just getting around the map.
your guys' video on actually getting into Cluster. It was like so mind blowing when I first saw that.
Yeah, it's like
such
about the prison.
such
Like, if we didn't try it a billion times, how would we know how to get boxes in prison, right? With a head and eye, even
Right.
without a ship. And then now the new thing came up that you don't even need to bring those boxes inside of prison. You just have to like do stuff, and you will see the boxes in your ship that is parked anywhere. And you will see them in the part of your inventory, and you can sell like the insane amount of boxes. You can just sell it without bringing them inside of a prison from your ship that is parked somewhere at Everest. You can sell at Head and Night. I'm not saying that's good, right? It's just the fact it's there.
It's there. You can do it.
Yeah, you can do it. I will be glad when they fix it, because I'm the guy. No matter what I do, no matter how much PvP I do, right, and no matter how much piracy I do and how much things I break and exploit, I make it always public. That was like one of my mottos. I will break things and I will never keep that secret. I will not keep it to my team. I will not keep it to my org, to myself, nothing. I'll make everything public, because when the things go viral, like across the board, they usually are they usually deserve more attention from devs. They start paying attention. They start fixing it. CAG is not the first company, not a first game dev company. It was always the case. You have to make it public, and you have to make it annoying for them to actually focus on something and fix it. And the same thing goes. I want all the merit exploits be fixed ASAP for one reason. So there is a merit to AUC economy, and we have like something player driven. We have some kind of gameplay. Like I want the wipes to be there. I want like thanks God, few of the exploits of the AUC exploits are fixed right now. There are still more to go, and I hopefully like when they fix it, they do a wipe, and we have like more meaningful gameplay. We will have like traders kicking in. We will have targets. We will be able to like smuggle Hedonite legitimately, without exploits, and make this player-driven economy work. It's much more interesting than when everything is broken and no one needs anything. I recently, 2 months ago or whatever, I did the fully legit smuggle of Head Knight boxes into prison. Right, we didn't use a single exploit, so we've moved like multi-tools with tractor beams from the outside into the tunnels and the boxes, and we actually made boxes go from the outside backwards through the entire escape route into the prison, and we turned them in for merits, and there was not a single exploit and whatever cheese mechanics used to get them in. And that's what I like, and that's what I like to see when it's like real, not like just total whatever cheese way log in log out with a box thing.
Right. Yeah, ultimately we want to see the game. We want to see these bugs and stuff get fixed, but the game is just in such a weird state where there's just so many bugs. Somebody was giving me crap on one of my YouTube videos where I one of the miners shot at me and I gave him a crime stat. It's there's just so many weird things that don't make any sense. It's you might as well take advantage of it, because by the time the next patch hits, it's all going to change, and we're going to have to figure out what bugs are there and what bugs aren't all over again.
What works, what doesn't, as Letty said, right? Every time patch comes out, you got to confirm, okay, QED is working or not working? Is Snare working or not working? Is EMP desynced or not desynced? How far you have to go in front of a full speed flying caterpillar to actually hit him with a QED or an EMP, right? How bad the desync is in the game right now, right? And all that kind of stuff. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Also, this thing with things with a crime stat, giving miners crime stat, it just shows to devs how poorly the criminal system is kind of done, how easily you can frame someone and send them to prison. Honestly,
Right.
I don't have the answer myself. Like, it's very understandable how it works in EVE. There is no misfires you can do. There is just targets,
Right.
and if you attack someone, they get a crime, not a crime save, but a criminal rating. Concord eliminates them, and then they lower their
Yeah.
security status. It's simple in EVE because it's a target system. Like, you cannot do mistakes there unless you're doing it on purpose, right? Like, it's a hard task for CH devs. I don't even want to get into it, how they're going to figure it out. That's up to them.
Were you going to say something, Dirty? I think we yeah.
Oh, it's
something to
just-
say?
I did want to say, you know, when you look at all of the glitches, all of the things that like are, you know, maybe what some people think of as more features, like for instance, armistice zones, you can find ways to use those in your favor as a pirate,
Oh, yeah.
even though they seem to be designed, you know, as anti-piracy or anti-PvP measures, but in a lot of cases, they sometimes make it easier. So, you know, being willing to like think creatively and outside of the box sometimes is a really important tool, I would say, for pirates.
Yeah, this kind of goes back to the point that I said, like, this discussion point about the tools that you need to make piracy work now. And I know that quite a few people out there, like, they just want to be told, okay, you need a warlock that's got this outfit, you know, like you use these weapons on it, you put this power plant and all that sort of stuff. Or you get a Cutlass Blue, you put this, you know, like weird ass bloody power plant on it, and all of a sudden you got the power, enough power to play, keep the United States running, and it makes your gun super powerful, and you'll pretty much just tear through, you know, anybody that comes after you. And the reality is like, because the state of Star Citizen, like, we're in an alpha environment right now, it's still being developed. So that doesn't matter, because what one patch is will not be the next patch. So part of what, you know, like, if you want to make piracy work now, the main tool in your belt has to be attitude. Like, your attitude to approaching piracy as a profession within Star Citizen, making it work, is like the thing that you want to achieve. And like, part of the reason why, like, you know, like, everybody here is a content creator in this show, and I've done that specifically because you get to see examples of piracy as it's in play. And I'm a big proponent for that, like, sharing that with the rest of the community and showing you, like, the potential of what we can achieve in Star Citizen when you take the attitude of making something work. Like, CIG hasn't told us, you know, like, this is how you make piracy work. CIG, like, mining is a very specific profession, even though we're all sick of fucking shit being made for it. It's, you know, got the very specific mechanics that are required for it. Like, it needs its specific UI, it needs its specific ships, it needs its specific components created for it. Piracy really doesn't need that. We need everybody else to get their stuff working, so that when they've got all their stuff in the game, like, we can start taking bits and pieces. Like, we're going to steal so much shit from bounty hunters, it's not going to be funny. Cargo hauling, being able to move those boxes, when cargo haulers can move boxes, that means we can move boxes. We can already sell stolen cargo. The problem that we have is, like, taking the cargo from somebody else's ship and putting it onto ours to be able to sell. Yeah. Right now, we just have to blow the ship up, but that's an inefficient method of doing piracy. But we make it work, and that's part of the reason why, like, we, you know, you saw a rise in extortion and ransom, because it was seen as a workaround to being able to profit more. And, you know, like, the other person gets a bit more of a chance of being able to recover from that situation. Like, they're not getting shat on from a great height, because at the end of the day, we're all playing an alpha. You know, it's another human being behind the other screen. You know, they may be, you know, really chill about it, and, you know, like, enjoy the experience, and, like, you know, that was really cool. This is like the bazillionth run that I've done of Laranite between Ariel and bloody Hurston, and, you know, this encounter's broken it up and made it, you know, like, a memorable experience. But, like, without the right attitude, when it comes to approaching piracy to make it work, in this current state, you aren't going to get very far. Like, you have to be willing to work at making piracy work, which means that you need to gain a better knowledge of the game itself, and you need to test. Like, one of the benefits of content creators putting their stuff out there is that you don't have to test as much. Like, as I mentioned earlier, I gain a lot of my intel by watching YouTubers who do mining tutorials and do cargo hauling tutorials, but I still have to go to those places and verify that stuff that they're talking about is actually legit. And I know there's been tutorials that are out there, and I've watched it. I'm like, that shouldn't work, because I have a pretty good understanding on how cargo hauling works, for example. So I go to verify that, and I'm like, no, this doesn't work the way that this person's saying that it does. And the proof is in the pudding. We'll hang around that specific area waiting for people to show up, and we'll jump servers, and we'll be hunting for the people in that area for a week, and we see no one. And it's like, well, they were clearly after the views, and you don't really bother watching that person afterwards, because it's like they're just their information is not accurate. But it's still one of those things where it's like, I see it as part of our my due diligence, being a pirate player, doing my research, learning about how the other professions work, because I'm pursuing piracy gameplay. And the workarounds, I don't call them exploits, I call them workarounds when it comes to the law system, because the law system for us is an obstacle. It's boundaries for lawful players, but it's an obstacle for us to work around. Prison's just an obstacle to work around. It's an inevitability. We'll end up there at one point in time, but everything that leads up to prison is us trying to work around that obstacle so that we can continue making profit, breaking the law of the game without breaking the game mechanics. Unfortunately, because the game is in development, we can bend the rules a lot further than what I'm pretty sure CIG intends, and we recognize that. And I don't know about the other guys that are here right now, but I know for myself, when we're doing that sort of stuff, it's more or less every person that I do it to is another voice that's going to scream louder at CIG to get something done. So it's when it comes to fixing up the law system, flying into the mining laser of a prospector so that they become the aggressor, they end up with the crime stat. I see that and I'm like, all right, it's a shit way of playing, but at the same time, I look at that and I'm like, all right, well, CIG needs to address that. So we'll do it so that, that person complains. The more people that complain, something starts happening. Another reason
Oh yeah,
why
totally.
we do the videos and,
Totally agree
showcasing
with
what we're
that.
doing.
Yeah. It's as I said, you break it and you make it public until they do something about it. Though with a particular case with the mining laser, I actually don't know what they're gonna do. If they're gonna remove the attack from the mining lasers, I'm just gonna fly in prospectors and kill everyone with a laser. It's a really hard choice for them to what they're gonna do. That's why I'm saying non-targeted system. Or this have to be thought through by CAG so badly. Because if they leave it as it is, I'll just go into a mining laser and send them to prison if they don't comply. If they remove it, I'll just go and just kill everyone with mining lasers. A battle prospector team, 5 prospectors that melt down 890 jump, or a Carrack before it takes off, because we're not getting a crime site. That's hilarious, but it is what it is. The thing you said about the piracy is this kind of exploration. Yeah, I totally agree, and I hope even in a more developed state of the game, there will be no hand holding for doing a piracy gameplay, right? So it has to be a thing where you gotta be creative. That it's basically what I said at the very start of this podcast, right? Piracy is a combination of all other or majority of other mechanics currently present in the game, right? So you gotta know stuff, and then you combine it, and you get piracy. Piracy doesn't need its unique game mechanics, right? We just need to be able to take cargo, and we need to know where to find stuff. in future, like, we have very bad tools for finding targets, right? We don't have like proper scanning. We don't have like long range
Yeah.
scanning to understand like
Definitely.
everything. But that's not piracy gameplay, right? It's just they need to step up with like improved scanning mechanics, which are kind of coming 3.13 at 3.14. Like, I'm not sure, but they're gonna do something with it. It's just a combination of using the tools that game piracy is a combination of using the tools that game provides to benefit yourself. I mean, obviously, I'm talking PvP piracy. I'm not talking just grinding like PvE missions or whatever. Yeah, and I hope it stays like this. I mean, the tools will get better. We will have less bugs and problems to work around with. But overall, this mentality of discovering the ways to profit on, like, for yourself using other players with the tools you're given, that's what the piracy should be, right? With all the boardings and future and like all that, like there should be no like tutorial on you take this and yar, you are a pirate. You know, it makes no sense. It's like an end game for me right now. Piracy is an end game because there is like, what else can you do, right?
It really is, you know, what you do when you've run out of, you've done the PvP, you've done the bounty hunting, you've spent a little bit of time mining and trading, and there's really nothing else left to do but steal other people's stuff. But I do think it will always be the most difficult profession for all of these reasons, right? We need to know about all of the mechanics, all of the bugs, all of the trade routes, all of the mining locations. There's just so much to know, and that's not even getting into the part of doing it, which is another thing altogether, and getting your group together and organizing them. It's work.
And it's great. It's just something that, like, personally keeps me going. If not this ability to even have a little bit of piracy in the game, like whatever tools we have right now, I would be nowhere near this game right now. Nowhere near what? Should I make my another 1 billion run of Laranite? What? Should I mine another 142 asteroid? Like, I don't blame people for doing this. Don't get me wrong. I don't try to smash on their heads. Oh, they're enjoying it. I'm just saying, on my personal perspective, I'm not enjoying it. Like, I can do it like occasionally, once a month or once in 2 months, to just chill. But yo, this what drives me, and this is the only thing for now, at least in game, that drives me. We have no territory control. We have no like, let's say, null sec, quote unquote, wars, like nothing. You know, yo, I can even utilize mining for piracy, for merit farming, right? That's what I do. Like, yeah, I mine in a ROC, but I mine totally different. I have a squad like running, and we do it even like under crime stats to make it more fun and dangerous, right? We have all crime stats, and we're still ROC mining to get the boxes to then smuggle into prison. So yeah, it is what it is. It's fun. I like it.
Yeah, I'll always say, like, I've taken on the profession of piracy within Star Citizen because it was always sold as the hard mode of the game, and I don't know, it's just a personality trait. Whenever it's come to any sort of video game that I played, I've always gone for the most difficult path. It sounds stupid, but once again, like, I see piracy as the most difficult thing, and part of the difficulty of piracy is really working out how to make it work. And that's, you know, I enjoy that. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing the Hercules being introduced next patch, because it's a new type of target that we can go after, a new type of target to take down. Presents new opportunities and new experiences that we can, you know, like, encounter in Star Citizen. You know, beyond the canned, you know, missions that you do, or beyond like finding that 100th rock that's, you know, got 10% more quantanium in it than the previous. And, you know, I also agree, like, I'm not trying to bash on the way that other people play games, but the reality is like, what I find fun is probably the most, you know, like, what I consider the most challenging aspect of Star Citizen. I've looked into like how deep people go when it comes to like mining, and how deep people go when it comes to trading and things like that. And it's actually quite fascinating to me, because I look at it and it's like, I'm surprised to see at certain times how deep certain people have gone when it's come to investigating how, mining works and, drilling down. And I know at one point in the early days of mining, like people were talking about how you could actually find specific types of rocks around specific, geological formations, like at the base of mountains on Yila, you would find more rocks with laranite in it. And I was like, did somebody really fly around checking the bases of all the mountains on Yila, scanning the rocks to see if they were full of laranite, or like was there something else that they had just noticed? And it was kind of interesting that other players are going to that sort of depth, but then we look at piracy and it's like we kind of have to know that sort of stuff as well. Like if we want to find targets with the limited capabilities that we have right now when it comes to scanning, we have to know where to look for them. There's no mission giver telling us where to go. There's no data mining that can be done for us that says all the targets are going to be over here. We have to use the exact same data that they've got to work out, all right, if you want to find rock miners, best places are probably going to be Aberdeen and Ariel.
Yep. Speaking of Hercules, in before it goes as fast as Carrot. Sorry, I had to meme that.
Oh, yeah. I'm just waiting for that, eh? Oh, mate. Alright, I think we've talked a fair bit about what are the tools to make piracy work. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the people watching this right now were probably hoping for very specific things. Use this ship, use this weapon set, use this armor. And the reality is that that's not the case.
There could be more recommendations if we were not in the patch we are currently in, right?
Yeah.
We could talk about can talk about this a bit, like just if you want, Letty, like it's whatever your call is. Like just imagine trading is working, right? Because it probably will work at 3.13 because they're introducing Hercules, right?
Yeah.
And
right.
I think they will fix.
So.
I think
hope,
they
right?
will fix trading.
Yeah.
I think they will fix trading for that, right? So we can talk about that a bit if you like, and just get that easy answer to viewers if they're keen to hearing it. I don't know, just your call, man.
I think, no, that's actually a good point that you brought up there. I think, because I know a lot of people expect specific tools, but I think, at the level that you kind of want to operate at right now when it comes to doing piracy, you kind of want to future-proof yourself when it comes to this sort of stuff. So, we're looking at a patch that's coming now where potentially cargo hauling gets fixed because, a new cargo hauling ship is being introduced, and CIG will want to test that. So, when it comes to, you guys conducting piracy operations, what are the characteristics of the tools that you select to do piracy? What do you look for as tools when you're trying to do piracy?
I can talk forever, but maybe I think I'm just over-speaking everyone else too much, so I'll just let guys speak up, and I'll add up if I feel there's something different to my approach.
Sure. Well, as far as the tools that are currently in the game right now, I'd say you want to have a tractor beam. You want to have Pembroke armor, because you're probably going to be operating in warm conditions. And you got that backpack on that, so that's important. As far as the ships, it's anything with a QED and anything with an EMP. Pack the distortions, drop their shields, hit them with the EMPs, don't let them get away. It sounds simple when you say it like that, but actually doing it takes a lot of coordination. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to ships, EMPs and quantum dampeners are definitely pretty high on the list in terms of being able to actually make complicated scenarios a lot more or a lot less complicated. I think an important thing to reiterate, though, is just how EMPs work, because honestly, I didn't even know until I started watching Mongrel Squad's videos, and it kind of blew my mind at the time. But like, you got to make sure those shield faces are down when you actually pop the EMP to disable the ship in question. And it sounds simple, but a lot of people might not actually know that.
It's actually
a lot
interesting
of-
that you brought up what it takes to take down, like a ship using EMP, because the iterations that EMP has actually gone through and distortion damage, like that's one of the things that we've been testing quite frequently. And like it's supposed to be a tool that's more intended for bounty hunters. Like the Mantis was always marketed towards, like law enforcement. The Cutlass Blue marketed towards law enforcement, and pirates get more use out of it. And I find that ironic, but the history behind the way that distortion damage works and the way that EMP worked from when it was first introduced with the Avenger Warlock, where it was pretty much an instant, shutdown. But the way that it worked when it was first introduced was that when you EMP'd someone, it also shut your ship off. So it was one of those situations where it was like, if you were firing that EMP, you had to be sure that for that split second that you're going to be disabled, that
it actually
one of their friends wasn't going to smash you.
Yeah, it actually was like the Warlock, for people who are like don't remember or were not here with the Star Citizen back in the day. The Warlock was released before any piracy could be made at all. Like the Warlock is a pre 3.0 ship. So again, a bit of a retrospective, like the boxes that drop from cargo haulers were introduced in 3.0 patch. Like if someone thinks like they still don't drop or whatever, I mean, you can be as delusional that there is no piracy in game as you want, but the boxes from the cargo haulers when the ships are getting destroyed were introduced in 3.0. So the Warlock is a pre 3.0 ship, and I totally remember like those fights around Korea and Cryastro Station, which was a thing back then, where there was like this like missile, like party tactics, when you go into like with the EMP and on the command someone launches missile at them, and then you pop the EMP to disable them, including yourself, but they get the missile hit and get destroyed. Like, yeah, Warlock is such an OG ship in that terms. But yeah, adding to the guys on top of what tools would you have if theoretically what tools you want if theoretically trading is in, right? And we would have like Caterpillars or Hercules in future running back and forth. So obviously you want a utility ship. That goes to the question of people complaining how bad is a Cuddy, like whatever, Cuddy Black, Cuddy Blue. Like people don't realize a thing that is called utility. They always compare ships for their like combat characteristics, and they throw everything away. I think that's really narrow visioned. Cuddy is a very good ship. Every single version of it has its own utility. Like the Blacks one are now probably I mean, they're good for cargo pickup, but in future they will have much more use with the tractor beams. But utility is the key for piracy. So utility we are talking is either EMP or QED. I think for like solo piracy, because I do it a lot, Cuddy Blue would be the go ship to get instantly if trading is in. Basically catching and taking off traders from the outposts, knowing the distances where you hide and when you start approach and when you pop on all your shields, guns, and QED to catch them. If you guys want to hear like the in-depth, that's usually full military spec, and you have to have the dominance 3 non-gimbaled shotties on the Cuddy Blue, because if you're dealing solo with a Caterpillar, you need firepower to grind through his shields. That would help you a lot. Anything else, and you will not just be able to take down the shields, right? Maybe with ballistics, if you don't run out of ammo through the shields, get him down, and then you just go with him with a QED and escort him, trying to talk to him to get the to get the ransom, the chances you will be able to like destroy them in space and get the boxes are miserable solo. So don't really think about it. It's more of a ransom thing. That's probably the best tool for solo piracy if the trading it in. And then everything else, if you're talking about the group piracy, just add up utility ships with EMPs, add up a mantis for a big bubble. So the idea is you escort your target outside of the Atmo with a small QD bubble. The moment he is out of the green zone for a big bubble, you pop up a snare on a mantis. And it's much easier then, because like the desync on a high speed is crazy to keep on 2 kilometer QED on the target. You can do that, but that's like very stressful. And then a lot of EMP ships. Like you have to EMP cycle. Your team has to be very good at doing the EMP cycling job. So you chain EMP him. Everyone has to know their order, and the moment the shields are down, the first like Warlock or Sentinel hits, they wait a certain amount of time, so the modules get the distortion damage in, and then the second one, and then the third one, and how much you need to keep that chain going. Yeah, that's basically the tools we're talking about. EMPs, QDs, distortion damage. I prefer using energy-only guns because we don't want to damage the hull. We want the ship to survive. So it's a mix of a distortion damage and energy damage to get the shield hole damage to a minimum. Yeah, that's my standpoint on it. And then it's about what do you want to do. You want to negotiate and get the ransom, or you want to just get the boxes. If you want to get the boxes, your best call would be not let the target get out of Atmo. So you use the Cuddy Blue to not let him warp. You instantly apply insane amount of damage to the target. The shields are down. You start chaining EMP. And afterwards it falls to the ground and you finish it up, and then you can start picking up the boxes and covering. Other ships just cover you from the bounty hunters. That's how we usually do it. I'm done.
It's always interesting to hear when the tactics of piracy are discussed from different pirate crews, because a lot of the tactics that are developed are actually done in isolation, and then you start seeing other people do it, like, oh, they're kind of doing it the same way that we are, and you almost think like you kind of suspect that it's almost by design from CIG, but the reality that we're facing is that like I don't think they're actually designing piracy in that sort of fashion. Like what we conduct in Mongrel Squad, and you'll see it in our videos, is what I affectionately call curb stomping. And the idea is that we don't want the target to get into space. We don't want to end up in that desync chase. So the idea is that as soon as they're outside that armistice zone, smack them down, curb stomp them so that they're on the ground, and then they're at our mercy. From that point,
100%, 100%. Yes, I agree. Because when they are in the 100 kilometer per second flight, we're not talking anymore about looting them. We're just talking ransom or kill, because no one will bother. You cannot even find those boxes when they explode at that speed. Even if you go to the debris, the chances you're going to see those boxes are just minimal. Yeah, though interesting thing, Letty. Recently, when I killed that caterpillar with gold I was talking about earlier before we started the podcast, I was able to see the yellow blinkings, right, on the boxes. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Much further than I've seen it in any previous patch. It's not that big. It's not like a kilometer, right? Yeah. But it is like not 20 meters as it was before. Yeah. It's much further. Nice. It's much further. I was really surprised with that.
Might have to blow up a cat.
Yeah, like it was a nice quality of life feature that they actually introduced for when you would destroy a ship in space, because you'd pretty much lose the cargo at that point. Like you destroy it in space before they introduced the little blinky lights, you'd lose the cargo. You could never find it. Then it just turned out that like the counter to that was just cargo haulers just fly at bloody bazillion miles an hour, and you destroy them and the boxes just get strung out everywhere. And then eventually CIG broke box spawning for a couple of patches, and we kicked and screamed about it until they were about to introduce a multi-tool. Like, this thing that we've been telling you guys that's been broken for a while now, you actually have to fix, because this really cool feature that you're introducing isn't going to work if none of the boxes are actually there long enough for us to pick up. But the blinky lights was actually a really cool feature that they introduced, and the lights used to be green when they were first introduced, and then they changed into that yellow-white, which I thought was dumb, because the majority of the time when we, destroy a ship, it's in space. Green stands out as opposed to the white, which blends in with the stars. And then you had the but it didn't matter anyway, because the render distance on those boxes was only 70 meters. And you blow up the ship, you're in a ship, moving at bloody warp factor 9, trying to keep up with the target that you're about to destroy. You can just go burning straight past those boxes. You try and come around, you're not going to see them. Like, everything.
Yeah, we usually had a person who was specifically going further behind to be able to break and stop around the place with the debris to be able to find the boxes. That's like hilarious, man. But that's what it is. Yeah. And speaking of tools, like a lot of things I say and how we do it, you gotta understand. Like, I don't have my org that has specifically trained people that will follow my orders, right? That's another talk. Like, we had it like a week ago when we were just privately talking, like why I don't do the org right now, because I feel it's a bit too early for me personally. So I usually run with like just my OG viewers who hang around, right? And they know the stuff, but we don't do like some crazy practices like you guys do. And I'm a bit jelly about that, but it is what it is, right? So I have to rely, and I have to understand, like, the majority of people in most cases are not used to this, to some specific, like, for example, I don't really rely on people being able to chain EMP perfectly, right? I know that that's not going to happen. If I have like 5 people with me doing that stuff, I can understand they can EMP, but I don't expect them to chain EMP in the exact order. So yeah, my approaches are a bit more like, I try to simplify things for people I run with until I get a dedicated like team for doing this.
Yeah, I think that's like the way that I've been running Mongrel Squad in that regard, like bringing people in, and it's more or less like, all right, we've now got to train you to become a pirate the way that we do it, so that you understand like how you fit within the team. Because a lot of people, when they join, an org or a group, like they want to feel, like they can contribute to the greater outcome. And that's part of the reason why we, like do it that way. But I'm also like, I also look at it from the perspective of like, how can we like do this as efficiently as possible? Least amount of resources, maximum outcome. So that requires like having that elevated level of experience and knowledge and skill. And like, it's an interesting point that you brought up, Cutlet, where like a lot of the piracy that you do are with your OG viewers who like normally have a lot of experience playing Star Citizen. So we actually get quite a lot of applications from potential pirates where they're like, I've just watched you guys doing piracy, I really like what you guys are doing, I just bought the game last week, I want to learn how to be a pirate. And I'm like, you need to learn how to play the game first, come back in a month's time.
Yeah, at least.
Because
it's it's not like we want to sound like, it's not like we want to sound like, like elitist, being pro or something. Like, yeah, it's just the fact, like, it's just the simple fact, like, if you don't know how like broken mechanics work in this game, like, what you're gonna do? Like,
we all know somebody.
If you don't know that on a high-speed chase, you gotta go on your screen 1 kilometer in front of the caterpillar, for example, when all of other mates tell you you're on top of it, actually, but on your screen you're in front of it, into the vector where the caterpillar is moving. Even if he's like decoupled rotating, you gotta understand the vector he's moving and get into that vector kilometer in front of it. And that depends on the server you're playing. Because like, if you're like playing, if I play for Europe, for example, on an Australian server because I can make a hit there, I have to take that even further than a kilometer because of all the server like related and ping issues, right? And then when I'm playing on Europe, I have to know that maybe like half a kilometer, and on America that has to be a kilometer, and that's only one little example. And you know when to pop an EMP, for example, or keep up with a target with a QED, or in the like the best scenario, someone has to call you out on an EMP when they see you are actually on top of the target on the server. Like the server is feeding them what actually is going on, but it will never feed you what is going on the server, and you have to understand that. And that's like the one example in like 100 different things that can happen doing that, like with any kind of player-to-player interaction, right? So it's not about like us being elitist and oh yo bro, come in when you're better. It's just you gotta learn like stuff before
Yeah, you gotta smash your head through the bugs a little bit first.
Yeah, it's a bit of a like. There's a range of reasons behind it, and part of it is like, you know, having that level of experience within Star Citizen first, where it's like people will join in and they'll be like, "Yep, I'm going to be a pirate," after watching, you know, all these videos of all these different, you know, orgs out there doing piracy. And like one of the things that we always point out in our interviews with potential applicants is like, what you see in that video is like the 15 minutes of cool shit happening. The previous 2 hours, we were looking for a target. We were staring at a rock mine and wondering what the hell they were doing. And like we're all just there like vultures just circling around it, waiting for it to get fat enough to go and hit it. And, you know, like it takes a certain sort of like personality at the moment with the game being an alpha to, you know, like really engage in that. Having a community that, you know, kind of like inculcates that attitude and accepts it, understands it, and, you know, kind of like leverages it as, you know, like a badge of honor kind of helps. But, you know, like it's also to help temper expectations. Like, you know, a lot of the knowledge that we talked about earlier as being part of the tools that you require to make piracy work, you kind of like need to gain that beforehand. And if we have to not only teach someone, you know, like trading, mining, you know, combat, flight, FPS, where locations are, you know, like where you buy one thing, where you take it to another place, what, you know, like where you go to buy different, you know, bits of equipment, all that information's already out there. But if you want to teach someone piracy, you need to be able to build on top of what they've already got. And if they've got nothing there, you got nothing to build on. So it's one of those things where it's like piracy is a bit of an exploration when it comes to being a profession as well, where you got, like we talked about it earlier, you know, it being about testing and investigation and exploration into how you actually leverage the mechanics to do what you do. Because I've seen this plenty of times in Spectrum and Reddit and bloody YouTube and bloody Twitch, where people say piracy's not in the game yet. Their CIGs said that they're like, CIG hasn't put the pirate mechanics in yet. And I always ask them, what's a pirate mechanic? Like, what's a pirate mechanic? What's this special mechanic that you're waiting for that says, oh, piracy is now in the game? Because literally, piracy is just about stealing stuff from other people's ships and then selling it for profit.
A pirate mission. You will have a pirate mission. Go pirate a player. How don't you understand? How don't you understand that?
For me, it's when I can get a skull and crossbones on a ship other than my caterpillar. Then it's officially piracy.
It's kind of like that situation where it's like, you know, having the right attitude and pushing yourself to do better. Like piracy right now, especially right now in the broken environment that we play in, like you have, like I always say, you got to be a bit of a glutton for punishment. You have to be a bit of a glutton for punishment to do piracy at the level that we do it at. And people will see, you know, the cool videos that we make and they'll be like, yeah, that looks sick, that looks fun, I want to do that. And then they'll go to play the game and it'll 30k. Within 5 minutes, they'll finally get to their ship and they'll take off, they'll get out of atmosphere, they're about to land at the station, and then some, you know, dickhead shows up and just blows them out of the sky and they got to start back at Lawville and take the train again that broke in the previous server that they were on, that they didn't want to take again. Like, being able to just work through that. Like, there's been times where we've logged on as an organization and it's taken us an hour just fighting bugs and the server and just trying to get to a single location. just so that we
Yep.
could start training to, practicing
Oh, yeah,
one
yeah.
specific skill set. And
It's like the thing I always say. In Star Citizen, it takes you 2 hours to just start doing something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really and from my org is a lot smaller than your guys', and between 4 people it can take like 30-40 minutes sometimes, just because we're spread out and weird shit starts happening. It gets fucking ridiculous.
The game, for all the new players out there, the game has a way of grinding people up and spinning them out. When it comes to stability and bugs and how intuitive certain systems are, it's got a long ways to go. It's very much an alpha. And so when, and I say the same thing to people that new is like, hey man, just spend a month in game, come back then and we'll talk. It isn't because we're being dicks. It's really because honestly, we want to see if you're going to stick around for that long in this environment. And it's not to like trash the game. I love the game. I play it practically every day, but it can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah, I just force myself
Yeah.
sometimes playing the game because I have to. Like, it's my revenue. Like, I live from it, right? There are like days I just don't want to even launch Star Citizen, but I just have to go online, and that's why it's like this idea with the Zero to Pirate. It's kind of blessing for me because like I've ran out of ideas of what to do on my main account. Like, I've exploited the game so much. I've achieved like everything there. I have nothing to do. Like, and then this idea came up with Zero to Pirate, and it's the only thing that keeps me going because like it just wears you out, like the game right now, and there's not much to do, and but I have to. So yeah, it's a lot of people that they got this initial kick from the game, right? They go like, whoa, oh my god, I landed on Dama, whoa, oh, I go out of a ship, whoa, this is beautiful, whoa, this like mountains, whoa, I can draw a gun and shoot and all that. But then like it's a lot of like CH's marketing is going like around that, right, to bait like new people into this like high fidelity world. But then they spend a month and they've landed everywhere. They've seen every city at like 10 FPS, and yeah, and they've had their like trains and elevators not working. They've enjoyed that, and what's then? And then you kind of input. You never know who the person is, and they may sound cool and all that, but then you input like a month of your lifetime into educating them, and then they just go like, yo, I just don't handle this anymore, right? It's probably I'll get back here in like 3 years when it's in a better state. And obviously if that will ever happen, what are the chances that person will be the part of your community? So it definitely takes dedication for people to stay in the game right now, especially like going into the piracy thing, when the multiplier for the things that goes wrong with your game is just crazy. Yeah, that I totally understand you guys when you say like spend a month or two. Like it's not the case for me, but I totally get why. It's just not the game. Like people have to be filtered out by the game itself before like any hardcore like dedicated pirate group can accept them, because like the effort you guys do to inject knowledge into players is not just saying them, yo, we're a trading org, you have to trade Laranite from here to there. It's much more, and like just losing that time for a person who will just bail in 2 weeks because he just cannot take it. It's like few guys that came to my stream, and they were very into like PvP, and oh, we want to do that, we want to take like stuff, and then they're sued like, for example, in a week that it's not profitable, and it's just for the meme, like not for the memes, but for the experience, not for the money. And then whoa, I cannot take the cargo from like this caterpillar, and in 2 weeks, like few of those guys just bailed. and they will come back, when the game is in a better state. Yeah, so that's kind of understandable.
Well, I think we've kind of beaten this horse to death right now. We're just continuing on about the tools on making piracy work now. I think it's quite easy. It's quite easy to see that whilst we can go into specifics about what you can use to do piracy right now when it comes to ships and mechanics and things like that, what you've just heard is a wide cross section of the attitude that you kind of need to adopt to start off with when it comes to doing piracy in this sort of environment. So take it with a grain of salt. The game is going to continue on with its development, so there will come a time where it's you don't really have to test too much, where it'll come to a place where somebody will make that tutorial and the mechanics don't change the next 3 months later, and that tutorial has to be remade. So the next topic on making piracy work: how does one do solo piracy? We've touched on this a little bit in the previous topic, but I guess we can drill down into how you actually make solo piracy work in Star Citizen now, because this is a question that I actually get quite frequently. I used to get it a lot when I was streaming. How do I do piracy as solo? I don't really have many friends that play Star Citizen, or I'm antisocial. I don't want to play with other people. I want all the profit for myself. So how does one do piracy solo and make it work in the current iteration of Star Citizen?
Who's gonna start, boys?
I'll go. So, all right. I occasionally do solo piracy. Most of my piracy is group based, but every once in a while I get the chance to just go at it alone. And for me, what that looks like is I'm almost always running crime stat 4. I hate wasting my time clearing crime stat and whatever. I just roll with it. So I'll usually fly a sentinel because they're tanky, and I can usually get out of dodge if I need to. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look for rock miners. So I'm going to Ariel, Aberdeen, or maybe Daymar. I'm gonna fly around near the mining posts, usually out to about 100 kilometers before I turn around and go somewhere else. Once I find you, I'm gonna hang out until you're done, and you, the rock miner, drive your rock back onto your ship. I'm gonna watch until you get out of your rock, and at that point, I'm blowing you up. You're gonna die in the explosion. I don't care about the homicide. I'm gonna land. I'm gonna take as much Hat Night as I can. I'm gonna dip out. That's my solo piracy strategy. It's quick. It's efficient. I'm not sitting around trying to type to somebody, because that's an easy way to lose your target. I don't bother communicating with them at all, because I know that as soon as I do that, a competent rock miner is just going to self-destruct their rock, because they know they're fucked, and they're going to give me the fuck you too. Excuse my language. I don't know. Can we use that language here?
Yeah, man, for sure. Fuck you.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That's basically my strategy. Yeah.
All right, I'll step in here if you don't mind, because I do a lot
Yeah, go
of
for it.
solo piracy right now. Right, as I said, I do this Zero to Pirate stuff on the stream, and that's the only thing I do right now. And one of the rules for the account, besides getting money only from piracy, is, for now at least, I do it solo. Probably until I grind up to something like a Cuddy Blue. I'm doing it exclusively solo. So I really have to stress a lot that what Captain Dirty said is a more efficient way to do it, because you're always in your ship, right? He's always in the Sentinel. probably he can deal with the majority of incoming targets. So, like, the only way when he's very keen to being sent to prison is when he's grabbing the head knight, right? If the bounty hunter comes in a right moment, he may not be able to get back into the sentinel, but other than that, he's like covered. He waits for the target, right, in the ship and all that. Though, again, you gotta understand, I'm streaming stuff, and I gotta make it a bit more entertaining. A bit more entertaining for the viewers, and I enjoy FPS action in this game a lot. So personally, it's not about the stream. I just enjoy it, right? And we're lacking it so much in the game. There is almost no FPS action in the game that is like kind of gameplay driven, unless you do like things, you know, artificially create two teams that will kill each other or whatever. So, and I don't have a sentinel. Waiting in an Aurora is not waiting in the sentinel, right? I'm a Tanner right now, but still. So what I do, I will try not to have crime stat because for a few reasons. First, I'm not running a sentinel, and even if a competent like bounty hunter comes in, he'll probably kill me. So in between the hits, I try to clear my crime stat. How boring that may sound, I still do it. I usually don't bother turning off comma rays to not get crime stat unless I really want to, unless it's a very active server, because you never know how active the server is, right? So you can go to just Aberdeen and Ariel and just see from chat it's dead, and then you have to switch the server, and then all your effort turning down comma rays is just gone. So I don't do that. So let's say I am without a crime stat, I go to the hotspots, which are like Basdic, Lathan, and Ariel, Anderson, and whatever the second name is on Aberdeen. I do my usual 90-degree scan from the pads, 4x, every direction, and I do it until I find a target, or I warp in and I see a target already there. He's just visible on the radar, right? He's too close, a mistake. He's too close to the outpost. So I will approach them. I'll try to first scan the ship, see if the pilot is in ship. Is he out already in the rock? If he's out already of the seat, I'll log the ship. I'll see how he's facing, like where he drove his rock out, to kind of understand what he sees on his screen while he mines, because they usually like place the ships with the ramp facing the bunch of like Hadanite. I'll kind of try to approach from the side, because you don't see actually the rock, right? But you can kind of try to guess at least. So your chevron, like your target, doesn't show up in front of him, right? Considering you have no crime stat, there will be no contact sound for him. So the only way for him to kind of understand you're coming is the pay attention on the radar, which is hard to do on the ROC unless you're very environmental aware and you're constantly looking at it. That's like another thing they should do, but they don't. So I'll approach it from the side until I see the ROC. At that point, I make a decision if I want to target an ROC or not, to see its actual positioning, where he looks, to get as close landing as possible, like preferred like 200-300 meters from him. I land, I go out, and then there are two options of what will happen. Depending on the situation, like on the conditions, I'll either enter the ship itself, because the ramp is in most cases open, and wait for him there, or I'll wait for the sniper shot, right? I prefer sniper shots, they're more satisfying. When I see all the rocks are done, he finished mining. He usually like the miner will usually pull in his mining thing. I go for a shot. I headshot them in the cockpit, and then the transferring stuff begins. So I go to the rock. I open the backpack. I have a macro because we still cannot get the inputs to like set the exact amount of split you want to do with a Hedonite. So I have the macro that spams like the arrow. I get it to 109, which is the maximum of Pembroke. I split into pieces. I get back to my ship. I create the boxes. If someone is not aware, you cannot create a single box from an ROC if the ROC is not in another entity's cargo grid. That is why killing the miner when he drives in the rock is more beneficial. It's less satisfying though, because you can pull out the full box. So I'll do those boxes. I'll get them in my ship, and then if I've cycled the Hedonite through my backpack like this by 109, I can sell those at any outpost. They're not considered stolen. Though if you get the target inside of his ship, like if he'd driven the ROC inside of a cutty and you kill him there and you pull out a box from his ROC directly, that cargo is considered stolen. You have to get like 2 grim hacks with it to sell it. But that's the usual look. When you get crime stat, it gets more complicated because they can hear you approaching. If they're attentive enough, they will hear the contact thing. And obviously, at any point, if you're about crime stat 3 or above, at any point of the op, a bounty hunter may come in and just shoot you while you're on foot doing your stuff. If you don't have crime stat, usually they will not have time enough before you grab the Hedonite and run. There are a lot of nuances to that, like the rock after you kill the owner, if he exits the server or does whatever or reclaims it, will just despawn. You will not be able to get it. Like the ship will despawn if you exit the ship. Like it takes a living entity inside of a ship for it to not to despawn. There are a lot of nuances to that. You got to learn it the hard way. So yes, the best way to doing it on foot is wait for him to drive in the rock inside of the ship, kill the owner, pull out the full box, get it to your ship, or use his ship to fly to Grimhacks and sell it. Like everything else you do, like do a snipe shots, like all that, some action is just for the satisfaction and fun purposes only. That's why actually that's another reason I don't like to destroy them with the ship from above, is to get one full box instantly from an ROC, and that's it. Not to bother with splitting and getting out the smaller boxes and then getting into your ship and all that. That's my kind of approach to that stuff.
Yeah, agreed. I would be doing the same thing more if I cleared my crime stat more often, because it honestly is a little bit more fun and satisfying to get the FPS kill. But I'm looking at it from a I don't want to spend time in jail kind of standpoint. But yeah, you absolutely are right about the cargo grid and the box. Getting the full booty is nice too.
It's actually a very big oversight from I don't know why CAG. Like, what was the reasoning to how the engine works, and what was the reasoning from CAG standpoint to not permit pull out a box? Like, I have no understanding, but the issue with this box thing is neither you can drive a player-owned rock if you're not in a party unless it's unlocked, which is not. Even like if you kill him and the front is open, you cannot get in a seat, right? Nor you can pull out a box. It's dumb. Nor you can pull out a box when it's outside of the grid. That is very it's just like game breaking for piracy, honestly, and you have to go through this workarounds and have to know how this stuff works.
One day, piracy might get easier in some ways.
I don't know how I'll handle that, to be honest. I don't know. I'll be like, I don't know how I'll handle when certain things become a bit more convenient for us, like finding targets, like having long-range scanners, and it's like, all right, I'm going to ping this one particular area on the moon, and it's like, there's these things over in this area. I'm like, oh, we'll go check it out.
Yeah, I think piracy has to get more convenient only to a certain degree. and to a certain degree of a game mechanics being there, right? So there is no just dumb bullshit. Okay, sorry for that, but there is no like dumb bullshit or like with the boxes, for example, right? And that we have to have like an ability to move the cargo, right? That's like super logical. Or if we steal a ship, to just dump the cargo like at a lower price, I don't know, somewhere defense, like whatever, right? Those things. I obviously none of us wants a piracy, as we said before, right, earlier, to have a simple guide of, if you want to be a pirate, go do this, done, you're a pirate. It will lose its charm, and it will not be that interesting. Like I don't feel bad about like long range scanning, right? It has to be there. You have to like be able to find targets. Like look at Eve, right? You can probe the entire system to find the ship, but it takes time, right? It takes time, and there is a counteraction that another player can take. If they use their scanner, they can see your probes, and they know they're getting hunted right now. So I don't feel bad about like long range scanning. Like if you do those kind of whatever the mechanics CAG will come up with, if you do like pings or whatever to find them, if they get like some kind of a notification for that, right, and they can counter react and escape you, that's fine. That's like this cat and mouse stuff that they were always talking about, right? There has to be always a counteraction for an action in a game. And that's what the same thing I talk about with the self-destructs. Like the way the self-destructs work is just ridiculous stupid, right? Anyone can self-destruct to just F you, and there is nothing you can do to board them. Like there has to be a counteraction to every action. There has to be an ability to turn off like a SD by any other means. Let's not get into that because like that's like a whole other topic right now, right? And we're not even talking about it because there is no trading right now. But yeah, there has to be a counteractions, and sometimes like CAG is on a different side of the wall here, because I directly spoke to them about self-destructs, and they directly answered to me, turning off the power of the ship shouldn't be as easy as popping AMP in future. And then they get to this imagined thing when everything works in this game in 42 years talking to me, right? Like, yo, bros, I love it. I don't want to be just pop EMP, turn off the ship, right? I just need solutions right now because it's flawed, it's wrong, it's broken, like, right? So that's why I don't really want to get into that stuff for now, because it's very frustrating. And yeah, we're more talking about rock miners and things that actually exist in game and you can do. But yeah,
this is going in the direction of like solo piracy. So like, I understand what you're saying there, Cutlet, and it's one of the, I guess, the mentalities that I was trying to make sure that we're maintaining as well. Like part of that expectation, like maintaining your expectations and not, going too far with that theory crafting, because a lot of people dream the dream and then they get burnt really bad by it. So like this particular topic, the point that we're discussing about doing solo piracy now, what you'll find is that the points that are brought up when it comes to doing piracy as a solo player is that they're all quite similar. Like it does involve a fair bit of like, like it involves 9 times out of 10 it's going to involve a rock miner. Like going after rock miners from that sort of perspective.
I would say it's even not a 9 of 10. I would say like 9 of 50. At this current patch, right? I got only one caterpillar in the entire time of me doing this patch. Only one caterpillar I've met.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of like, it really comes down to how you want to approach it. What sort of experience do you want to have when it comes to doing, like your little act of piracy as a solo player? Like the most efficient method that you want to look at, like you don't want to end up with that crime stat, because that draws attention to yourself. You don't want to, like end up in that position where it's like your opponent has an advantage over you. Like if you want to succeed at what you're doing, you want to make sure it's like quick, clean, efficient, and like no one knows about it because you're by yourself. And like the second that you got that crime stat, if you're not equipped to deal with the potential threats once you got that bounty on your head, you're getting taken out of that piracy gameplay loop. And that's one of the things like that you kind of want to try and maintain
And put
when it
in
comes
the
to doing
prison
piracy.
gameplay loop.
Yeah.
So I think to add to this, to just what you said, right, about solo piracy, if we're talking like meta gaming and all that, you can do it the cheese way, right? You can do it super cheesy. You can wait for the guy near the ship, wait for him to go inside of his whatever he is using to transport, like a Cutlass Black, for example. When he drives in, you crouch behind the ROC, you pull out a box, and you leave without a kill. That's like the super cheese way. And then let him go to issue console and create a ticket that his cargo just disappeared for whatever reason, right? That would be the most safe and cheese way. And you kill him only if he spots you. More of it, you can even let him hit you a bit and send him to prison because you have call to arms, right? That's like super cheese way to annoy people. Though I don't do that. It's hilarious, but I don't do that because I want some kind of an experience, right? I totally understand how to do it. Like, I totally understand how to do it.
Right.
I just don't do that. When I get someone hit, I want them to know they're hit. So that's why I go first for the kill or for interaction if they kind of can hear the VoIP and answer, right? But usually for the kill because they, like, whatever, VoIP is broken. If it works, they will still say fuck you, and whatever. So I do that on purpose to make my point. They were killed and they got pirated, right? They get marauded, they get griefed, whatever viewers will want to call it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then they know there was a hit. There will be no issue console. There will be no confusion. They will know the name, and I get out with a box. So you can do that without bringing any attention. You just wait the right moment. You pull out the box, and you just jump off the ship, and he lifts off. And next time he lands, or he goes to sell, he's like, "Wait, where's my cargo?" And you just like easily walk like la 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 to your ship and go sell it. Yeah, that's another way you can do it. Though I don't do it.
There's a
One other.
method. Go ahead. No, you go first, Dirty.
Oh, sorry. I think one thing that a lot of pirates overlook is the power of social engineering, especially for solo piracy. If you talk your way into a mining crew, whether it's mole mining or rock mining, preferably rock mining, because you could have something physical to steal. You can
Right.
talk your way in there, grab boxes out of the back of that rock, hide them in the MSR or whatever you're flying in, put them in your armor. You don't even have to shoot. They may not even realize you stole from them. Once it's all over, you can pop one in the back of their head and take all of it if you want. But there's a lot of different ways to do the piracy, even solo.
Oh, totally. Yeah. The
Yeah,
social
for
stuff, like
sure.
first off, the social stuff is you got to monitor the chat. That's one of the tricks. People like hide the chat. Chat is a very valuable source of information. You can see like
Oh yeah.
someone saying they're mining. You can understand they're like either are they ROC mining or are they like mole prospect mining. You can even see people like bragging about their trades, and that's like they're just giving them away, right? Social engineering, getting into a team, that's totally a legit thing to do. I wouldn't even call it cheesy. It's totally legit. It's an interesting way to play it out. It might require a lot of time. It might not be even like efficient in terms of like your income, while like piracy income is already crippled, but that can be a lot of fun. I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
Especially
you can.
if you get in Discord with them and can hear them. Oh fuck, I just got shot. Oh fuck, what's going on? Oh, it's gold. Love those moments.
Oh boy. Yeah, that would be funny as hell to listen to. Definitely for solo piracy, I think being sneaky is probably the best way to get around, whether or not you're doing social engineering or even if you're just trying to sneak on board the ship and then just wait for them to like bring the rock miner back on board, and then so you can either kill them and take the stuff, or just like you guys been saying, take the stuff without them even knowing. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting options. Usually, being sneaky or really aggressive is the ways that I've found to be most efficient if you're by yourself, because you really don't have too many options, and you don't have the people to cover your back in case shit gets really weird or goes wrong completely, like off the gate.
Yeah, there's a technique that I guess my org started using fairly extensively that I actually had to tell them to stop using, and because it's really it requires next to no skill, and I wouldn't really call it that much in the way of piracy, but the idea is that you're scouting for targets, you're hanging around those outposts, you see one come in, and they land. You're in a non-threatening ship, you land at the outpost too, you make sure that you're wearing your frogman suit so you look like a noob, and like you're there to do a box mission, you shitty little Aurora, and they leave their ship door open while they're going into the terminal to grab their rock. You sneak aboard their ship, you get it into a turret, and you just chill out for the next however long it takes for them to mine. You wait. As soon as they come back to the outpost to sell, you jump out of the turret. When they jump out of the ship, you get into the ship, you fly away, make a box, transfer it over to your ship, sell. And, like, you can do that, and you can make credits off that, because the amount of players that do not check their turrets, like the Cutlass Black has one turret. Anybody leaving the chair, if they look at the turret position, if you can't see the turret chair there, there's someone in the turret.
Yeah.
The amount of people who do not check their comms channels, they do not the power of observation, or the lack of power of observation that so many players have because they got their blinkers on trying to, make those credits and, make the numbers bigger in their wallet is, amazing. And part of the problem is that, there's not enough education that piracy is a viable gameplay loop in the game. Like, there are people out there doing these sorts of things to other players. Once again, it's the reason why I've got content creators here, because we're all putting this out there, and we've been doing it for ages, and the amount of the community who still is not aware of what can actually happen to them is phenomenal. In one of the most recent videos on Mongrel Squad's channel, one of the miners looks at one of our guys on their ship in a Cutlass Red. He's laid down on his back and he's got his gun pointed at him, and old mate gets out of his rock, looks at him, and then pivots and goes towards his pilot's chair and just keeps going on like nothing's happened. We've done tests with it, and you can actually just have somebody stand, with their face facing towards a wall of a Cutlass Red near one of the med beds. You can just have someone standing there wearing Pembroke, and they just blend in. If you're running past, you don't see them, because it's it just blends in with the background unless you're specifically looking for that sort of thing. And it's phenomenal, just what you can leverage in terms of not manipulating players, but just understanding the motivations of other players when they're playing the game. A lot of players, when they're rock mining, they've got their blinkers on, they're there to make credits, they're there to do their mining loop, and that's it. The rest of the world does not exist. The rest of the player base does not exist at that point. And it's sneaking in a side of ships, you should be really aware of what's game overall FOV is to understand if someone can notice. It just takes practice to understand if I stand if I enter a certain door and then I stand here to the side of it, will he notice me when he will be running with his FOE, even if the FOE is cranked up to a maximum? Will he even notice me, right? And usually people, if they're not PvP oriented, because, I have this in my DNA. The moment I, go into a ship, into my own ship, I, always look back. I always look everywhere. It's just a quick little blimp, glimpse, but I do that to check everything is clear. People don't do that, and you can really leverage that. It's about this turret piracy you said, right?
it's not even that they don't see the chair, right? They don't even pay attention that they have
they don't even know to look at the chair.
they have a white beam on their MFD that points out there's someone on the turret, right?
Right,
Yeah,
there's that
It's so
too.
doable.
Yeah,
I walked
it's
onto
so
the
easy to discover.
same player's ship 2 times a few play sessions ago. The first time he didn't even see me. The second time he eventually figured it out. But yeah, it is kind of a cheese method. I don't like to do too much boarding people at, Everest or wherever. But hey, man,
Right, the
it
HTML
works.
messages and shit like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really does. They almost always leave the ramp down. But one thing I wanted to get in talk about was one of your videos, Mongrel Squad agents, was it was a Cutlass Black, and there was 2 rock miners on board, and you had one of your guys sneak into the turret, and it blew my fucking mind that the other guy in this Cutlass Black didn't walk over to the turret, try and get in,
Yeah.
and tell the pilot, "Yo, I can't get in the fucking turret. The thing's not working." How you guys even pulled that off without them being like, "Oh, this is fine"? It's like, what the fuck is going on here?
I'm still amazed by that too. I wasn't actually a part of that crew, so when I heard about it, my mind was blown as well. I'm like, what was the other guy doing on the ship then?
Yeah.
He wasn't getting in a turret. It turns out he was just sitting in his rock. But there's been other times where, we've also been victims of this as well, where in one of our hits, this is going to sound funny it's dumb and it's funny at the same time. We've boarded this miner's ship. We've finally gotten to the point where we're like, all right, sweet, boarded it. We slaughtered the pilot. I've gotten in the pilot's chair, moved it somewhere where I thought I was safe. I'm like, sweet, I'm going to go into this rock. I'm going to go, take the cargo out of it, and it's going to be gold. We'll bloody, sell it off. I go to do that, and I hear the rock start up. And this is in the back of the ship. And what I failed to do was I failed to check to make sure that the driver of the rock, that I actually killed the driver of the rock and not only killed the pilot. Turns out there was 2 people on that ship. The guy who was driving the rock, doing all the mining, was still sitting in the rock. I'd run straight past him when I went into that ship. And to go after that pilot, slaughtered the pilot, flew the ship away. And then when I've gotten it into a safe spot where I was happy to go and go for the gems, I'm going out there and I'm like, why is this thing started? And then I see this guy get out. I'm like, oh shit, just arced him up. But it's one of those situations where it's we make, I wouldn't say we're making fun of them, but it's pointing out it's it's one of those situations where you kind of I can't believe that they didn't see that, or some of the things that you can get away with when you're doing piracy, is amazing. And once again, this is an attitude thing. You got to be bold when it comes to doing piracy, especially when you're being solo. You got to take those risks. Because you'd be amazed, the amount of people when they first encounter pirates, they haven't encountered them before. I don't know if any of you guys have actually seen the other side of a pirate hit, but we ended up in a very unique situation back in 3.9 where we hit a streamer and we didn't know that they were streaming. It was an extortion job, so they had left. This is back when Laranite was pretty much bugged and it was just an infinite supply. So this is just one of those caterpillar haulers. And the guy, we'd observed him, we found him, but we caught him just as he was about to leave. So we're like, all right, it's the Laranite bug, so he'll be back. It's only a matter of time, he'll be back. So we all just waited until he came back. Came back, filled up, took off, and we hit him. We weren't curb stopping at that time. We were pretty much just doing extortion-based piracy. So it was get his shields down, disable him, get his attention, let him start back up, and then, starting speaking to him and engaging him. And it was an interesting perspective watching how this guy was handling it. I was able to talk to him over VoIP. He couldn't respond. But it was one of those situations where it was he was trying to respond via, VoIP comms. It just wasn't going through. And when I watched his stream, he was trying to talk. Because I'd done, heaps of piracy hits before, I always understood, there's always this potential that their mic isn't working. They could hear me, but I can't hear them. So I'd tell them, if you can't hear me, Like, I can't hear you speaking right now, but you've got, like 30 seconds to send a message to me, or else I'm going to destroy your ship. And pretty much, within that 30 seconds, he's furiously like typing out a message, and he's like, like how much? Like 50k. A 50k for a bloody caterpillar full of Laranite's a fucking bargain for a trader. Especially, considering how much they've bloody put into it. But this was more about the exercise and, like going through the motions. But it was interesting to see, because that guy had never been pirated before. All he had really done playing Star Citizen before that was like the PvE missions, a little, like driving around, looking at the sites, and then just wanted to make some credits so he could buy some ships. So, he started moving Laranite. Building, making that wallet numbers bigger. But it was always interesting to see that other perspective of like somebody encountering piracy for the first time. And I can't speak for anybody else who, does content creation for piracy, but, the two goals of Mongrel Squad: promote Mongrel Squad, promote piracy within Star Citizen. So, like, that's, a motivation for pushing those videos out there, is like to educate the community. Like, piracy's happening now. It's not one of these things like we haven't waited for CIG to tell us that you can do it. We've taken the initiative and just started. Like, we've seen enough that's around for us to do it. So when it comes to doing solo piracy, like, just get out there and do it. Like, don't sit there and wait. Don't sit there and, like try and wait for some random mechanic or anything like that. Fortune favors the bold. Just get out there and do it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
like people will have a lot of things to struggle with. People will have like they will have to rediscover all the problems that goes along with it. Then they have to be prepared for it. But it is definitely doable. Like, they will learn all the ins and outs and what works, what doesn't. You just gotta go and try it. Speaking of like solo piracy, the most interesting encounters I got were those where I had to solo two guys. That was the most interesting ones, when it was either a pilot and a miner, or like two miners in one ship, and then you have to come up with different decisions. You gotta really catch them up together before they can like counter react on, like, before the second guy can counter react on the death of a first like person. Those are the most like cool and crazy ones, when you try to hide. And like the one I had with a Mercury, where there were two guys mining at Australian server, and they left the ramp open, obviously, and like at first I wanted to like snipe them, but then it's not gonna work, and that's the decision I had to call. I got in, and I got to, when you enter the Mercury, there's like this right hidden compartment. I instantly got there, and then I just turned off all the music on the stream just to listen for the sound. And like, I hear first rock coming in, I don't move. I just keep my mouse on the open the door button, right? And then I hear the second struggling with the ramp, and then he goes in, and then I hear the sound of the animation that the rock opens, and that the moment I press the button, I'll go out. I hit the first one, and I just hear "wipe." Damn!
Damn.
And then I hit the second one, and then they were super positive. Like, obviously they were
Yeah.
not happy they got like pirated, but they were like super positive. They came to my stream and like, yo, that was great, all that.
Yeah, I was
obviously
watching your
gave
stream at the
them some
time,
advices
and that was
for
an amazing hit. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
that was an amazing hit.
Yeah.
So, I think probably the most important points to come out of like how do you do, RC solo. Get inventive with what you're doing. That's probably the most important thing. Is be inventive with what you're doing. Don't don't wait. You got to be bold with what you're doing. There are cheesy ways of doing it, and people can do it that way. Eventually, CIG will fix those particular issues. But the reality is like don't let being on your own stop you from doing piracy. And like, if you're looking for inspiration, like Space Cutlet, go check out his stream on Twitch. You know, like he's doing his Zero to Pirate, which is pretty much up the alley of a lot of new players who are seeing the content of piracy and Star Citizen right now. You know, like they see it created, they see the cool experiences that we're having, but you know, it's one thing to watch it on YouTube, but it's another thing to get out there and do it. So being able to observe someone who's experiencing the game and going through those steps and, you know, leveraging their knowledge, like you can mimic that until you've learned enough about the game. That being said though, you know, harping back to the points that, you know, Capt Dirty and I have made in regards to like learning about how to play the game first, like spend time learning how to play the game, because it'll help you a lot when it comes to doing piracy as a solo player. Like, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice if you don't, because it enables you to be able to think with a level of abstraction that a lot of the people that you pirate can't comprehend, which gives you the advantage in any of those sorts of situations.
Yeah, know the tools, basically. You have to know the tools. And in case of solo piracy, right now with ROCs, you don't even need like a specific ship, right? You just need something that can carry boxes. That's it. You have to know how the game works, and that's about it. Like Aurora, no problems, you know, like Tana, no problems. It doesn't matter. You just have to know the mechanics, how it works. What are your tools? Like, just go FPS and know the exact moment. And then you just have to decide what level of cheese is acceptable for you. Though there is a bit of like a warning personally from me, the more cheese you get, the less you learn. The harder you make and more realistic you will make the hit for yourself, right? More data your brain will get, more experience you will get. Again, you can do it any way that we've described before that, right? But the more easier you do it for yourself, like if you dodge like any kind of engagement, anything, yeah, you can do that, but that's gonna get fixed sooner or later, right? Sooner or later, ROCs, for example, you will not be able, if you're not the owner, you will not be able to open the back, because I think that's a very big flaw there. I think that's like a huge flaw there in that gameplay, like in that ROC interaction. I personally am a believer, and non-owner should not be able to open the back unless, like, if it's locked, you have to breach it with damage, like the doors you breach, right? And then you can enter. So even if you're getting sneaked upon as a ROC miner, you can hear those shots and you can somehow react. I personally feel that's how it should be done, right? But yeah, just choose the level of cheese you can handle, you know, and go for it. I totally agree with Lady. Go for it. Try it. It might be fun for you, fun encounters.
We've kind of touched on a lot of these points already, but this particular point is, what could CIG add to improve piracy gameplay? And there's two sub-points to this. So we got the short term and then we got the long term. Now, one of the things about the Mongrel Court is, like, we don't really want to get into like heavy theory crafting, so it's light theory crafting. So when we talk about short term, we're talking about like within 6 months' time. What could CIG do in the next 6 months to improve piracy gameplay? And then when we talk about the long term, it's what can CIG do to improve piracy in 12 months' time?
Oh, I can talk about it forever.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I should even start.
So,
do you want me to start?
Yeah,
well,
like, it's open to
I'd
the
say
floor.
the short
You guys
term.
can start on it.
The short term,
well,
the easy one that we've been talking about all morning so far is just fix the fucking bugs. My God. If there's
I
one
think,
thing
like,
that's
yeah, go ahead.
holding us back the most, it's the constant cycle of just trying to figure out what's working and what's not working, and then having to literally plan everything around that until it gets fixed and broken again, respectively.
My standpoint would be the side mechanics that should be dealt with is definitely they should fix trading. That's like super short term. I think that's coming like 3.13,
Yeah.
like, so we can have that piracy. Like, from the standpoint of gameplay mechanics, I think QED should be changed. I think with the current kind of desync we have, overall, even if you just remove the idea of desync, like the 2 kilometer QED is with the combat speeds and whatever we are having is just a meme. I think a Cutty Blue should get. Okay, don't laugh at me, but that's actually my kind of point. I think it's true. Like Cutty Blue should get a 10 kilometer QED because it's kind of slow compared to a lot of ships, like especially single seaters, because Cutty Blue initially is a ship of bounty hunting, not piracy ship, right? How will it catch anything that is slower? If there is an outlaw, right? If there is an outlaw, how that if we think Cutty Blue is used for bounty hunting, right? If it's an outlaw, it's probably a single seater, or any kind of even if it's a 2-seater, it's not like a caterpillar, right? How can a Cutty Blue catch anyone with a 2 kilometer QED? I think Cutty Blue QED, it should not get a snare. It should just have a 10 kilometer QED. I think a Avenger Stalker, which is a bounty hunting ship, also has to get a QED as its device. I'm pretty sure it has to. It just makes all the sense to have a size 1 QED ship like that. Like a Warlock has an EMP. It's like a smaller Cutty, basically. I think a Stalker should get a 5 kilometer bubble. It doesn't need that big bubble as a Cutty Blue, but because it's just faster, right? A 5 kilometer bubble would be fine. I think they should do like a 5-7 kilometer bubble for a Mantis. Then obviously a snare. They should understand how the snare works. It's just probably depends on the server health, because like of the server ticks to pull someone out of Quantum. That's all like not hard fixes. That's why I'm like saying it's like a something in between short term and long term. Like I think snare is dependent on server ticks. When someone goes into Quantum, if server ticks are good, they will be pulled out. If not, it will fail. Overall, like the snare mechanics isn't really good. It's just bad. In my opinion, it should be a targeted cone towards the destination from where you want to pull someone, not a 20 kilometer bubble. They should kind of change that. Combat speeds definitely. That's something that can be either both short term, long term. That's just values. You just need to fix that. I think combat speeds should be defined by the acceleration, because like there is no maximum speed in space unless we're talking speed of light, right? So it's the maximum speeds in game is just a gamification aspect to make like gameplay more like logical in terms of like the game itself, not like how the reality goes. So it's basically a slice of an infinitely accelerating. So basically your acceleration into a vector should define your maximum speed to represent that infinite kind of acceleration in reality. And then it will be logical that slower ships go slower, slower ships go slower, the maximum speed. Also, like penalties for acceleration above SCM would help all the piracy stuff when you're like catching someone. And doing that just to lower down like the encounter speed overall, and to like cripple the ability to just like jiggle wiggle on 1 kilometer per second, like different vectors, that things. So QED, what else? QED speeds. That's the major things. Obviously trading, right? Obviously I think sorry, not trading, cargo. That's coming. We don't know when. Probably it's a long term. If you're calling long term and a year, probably that's long term. Like ability to take cargo, definitely. Right. And like what to sell it. I don't know if they're gonna make long term the ability to just steal a ship board it, steal it, and sell it right from that ship. That's questionable. A lot of interesting stuff is coming with physicalized inventory 314. I think that's going to benefit like piracy a bit. At least it's going to make it more interesting. It might make a bit harder for a pirate to operate. He will have to think in advance what he brings it, but that's just more interesting, and I'm always up for more challenging and interesting gameplay. But the changes with the speed, with the QED, and maybe Armistice Zone changes, like this invul Armistice old school way on outposts. It's just lame overall. I think that has to change. It can be easily changed long term, though they will have to come up with a good protection around outposts. So like it's not like an outlaw land, you know. Stanton is an outlaw land. What else? Like more of a longer term. I don't know. Yeah, that kind of things. It will benefit a lot. It will benefit a lot. Like, oh yeah, tractor beams. Sorry, I forgot. Tractor beams. I hope we will get in this either short or long term. I hope we will get tractor beams to be able to stop ships in 0G after they being turned off to do the actual cool boarding operations.
Yeah, that would be very nice. Like to reiterate what you said before, like it almost acted like a web effect, and like from Eve to the point where you need more and more of the tractor beams to actually like efficiently slow the ship down, so where you can get it to the point where you can board it reliably without it spinning ridiculously fast or just drifting off. The tractor beams will definitely be pretty good tool. Especially
we had space drag in one of the patches. We had space drag, which is not realistic, but it really helped. I don't remember the exact patch when it was a thing, but if you turn off someone, like if you keep him being turned off, the ship would stop at some point in a quite reasonable time frame, and then you can board it if you keep it powered down. Though it's not here anymore. Like there is a bit, but the amounts of time you have to spend to wait for it to stop and keep it powered down.
I remember space drag was a thing that we had in 3.8 because that's where we were developing one of our tactics for taking down targets, which was pursuit-based piracy, where we'd chase the target down. So we'd attempt to extort them whilst they're still on the move, and then if like they refuse, then 9 times out of 10 we're in space by that point, so we'd like disable them and have to wait until the ship slowed down to a stop and maintain EMP suppression for then. That was still around in 3.9 as well. They kind of started dialing it back around 3.10, and it was one of those situations where we're like, it's like it kind of helped us out a lot. And there were methods that you could employ to try and help slow the ship down, but because you had to deal with desync, like over certain speeds, and this is one of the, you know, like this play and counterplay thing, like cargo haulers were like leveraging like going max speed constantly because they understood like once we started desyncing, they had a higher chance of being able to escape. And even if they didn't have that chance of escape and we were on the ball with what we were doing, we had like our chances of success reduced significantly because we couldn't leverage the built-in mechanics when it came to like being able to profit from them when they refused. So like in the case of cargo haulers destroying their ship, the faster that they went, the less chance of us making a profit because all the boxes would just get strung out everywhere and we just couldn't find them. Until it got to the point where boxes were just disappearing within seconds of the ship being destroyed, and it didn't matter.
I think I've actually noticed one interesting stuff. While we were doing all this fun stuff with stealing Idrises, right, and javelins, what I've noticed is if the ship is drifting offline, if you bump it a bit, touch it with another ship, it may start like this space drag whatever logic, and it will stop. But I never bothered because again, there is no trading right now. I don't do like any more like science for the sake of doing it, right? There is no trading anymore. I don't think like sciencing something is a good like time efficient thing, because like probably it's the next patch when the trading will be in, and then everything can be different, and you'll have to science it again. But what I've noticed is sometimes when we bump the ship, it keeps being powered down, it will eventually stop. Though I didn't nail it how that happens, so yeah, it's hard to say. And usually, if you bump a drifting caterpillar, you will kind of die. So someone will have to suicide doing that. Yeah, it's a bit rough right now with that. So yeah, like, oh yeah, obviously scanning, but that's coming too. We'll see how it works. Long range scanning to be able to actually not hop the servers every 10 minutes looking for people around outposts. That would be really good to kind of, you can keep playing on the server and actually look for people,
Right.
to be the experience more immersive and kind of interesting. Yeah, we'll see how that works out. I mean, yeah, server meshing, main thing, server meshing. Long term, very long
definitely.
term. Can we add very long term to this list?
No, I don't think we've got enough
Like
time.
42 years, like 42 years term, and then we'll end one point there. Server meshing to make our life complete as pirates.
Capt Dirty, you've been pretty quiet lately. Have you got any?
Yeah. So you guys have already hit most of the things that I would say. I want to also say I strongly support the removal of armistice zones, especially on moons. Give us turrets, whatever, don't care. Just get rid of the armistice zone. It's going to be better for the pirates. It's going to be better for the industrialists.
Yeah.
One thing,
but I accept it only if those turrets are good. I don't want to be promoting ideas that benefit only me as a player. I think everything should be equalized. I don't want to them removing the outpost armistice zones, right? And then adding the turrets that never hit, and it's just gonna feel a bit shitty. You kind of promote the mechanic that benefits you. Yeah,
it's
not about
tuning
tuning.
right?
It's about the freaking lags. It's about the server's inability to hit shit because of the lower tick rate. It's not even about tuning. They either have to make them hit scan, so they just obliterate you, or they have to add missile turrets. I don't know, because right now really, all the defenses.
Yeah, they're not really effective until you basically stop moving. Currently, you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I mean, assuming that they can fix the desync and server lag issues, it's just how many missiles or whatever, how much firepower does it take to drop these turrets is going to dictate how many people you need to bring to that location in order to effectively drop the defenses. I think eventually we'll probably get there. I think that's definitely a longer term goal. I think something that maybe could be done a little bit more short term is improving the voiceover protocol. I would really like it if that were more reliable.
You are so right. The VoIP should be increased. Yes, man, you're so on point.
It's impossible to know if they're just muted or what currently, but it would go so far to making everyone's experience more immersive and I think more enjoyable. And I don't know. I'm not a programmer. I don't know how hard that would be, but I mean, I can think of a dozen games that have great voice over IP. So there's no reason why CIG can't.
Like Squad, for example, that has all the command and other channels, and you have never troubles with that shit, right? It's crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, right? So, I mean, section off however many millions it takes to get some people to do it, because it would really make the game more just better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
trying to open communications with people for piracy terms is it's such a pain in the ass. It always almost bugs out, and then when you get the comm to actually go, you don't know if the guy has his stuff set up. You don't know if he's muted. You don't know if he knows the hotkey to actually communicate back to you, and it's not very
That's
obvious.
My second thing is you're being pirated. Push plus to communicate with me.
Plus on the keypad. What?
Yeah, it's you don't know when you call them. First, you don't know if they see your call, if because they're getting attacked, right? They're very like on the edge. They're like kind of frustrated and they're like panicking. So the question is, did my call go through? The second question is, okay, if my call went through, do they even see that? Then the question is, okay, if they see that, do they specifically want to ignore it? Okay, my call failed. Did they rejected it or it just failed? Okay, my call went through. Do they hear me? Okay, they hear me. Are they not answering because the call is broken, or because they don't want to answer me and just want to buy some time, right? Or they're answering but something is wrong, and it's like so many questions in that one VoIP thing that are not getting feedback, neither to the person who's calling nor to the person who's answering. Nothing is like feedback. You don't understand what state is your call in. Like, is there a technical problem? Are there actually it's crazy, and I super agree with you, and I don't even know how I didn't think about it. VoIP is, and then you kill them, and they go, hey, you could have at least trying to ransom me, like one of those guys, who actually wanted to be ransomed, right? And not that guy who was like, oh, fuck you, I'm not talking to terrorists. So yeah, and if that would get better, and because I feel the most bad when someone actually wanted like the experience and they didn't get it because of and I was like, bro, I was trying to communicate to you for half an hour in our 1 kilometer per second chase, right?
One of the most important lessons I learned early on was probably the most valuable wingman I could bring is somebody who's willing to sit in my turret and be my comms operator while I focus on doing all the other stuff. Because most of the time you can't rely on voice. It's got to be through typing, and you just can't type and pursue someone or dogfight someone or even track them effectively a lot of times if they're moving.
Yeah, trying to hold a conversation, especially if you have to type it, with somebody that you're actively chasing, shooting, or like trying to do anything with is just a nightmare. Like, I've tried to do that a couple times, and I was just like, one of you guys who's not doing anything super intense right now, like whoever's bugging out the hardest, you start the combo, like, because we got other things to focus on.
All the chat and communication is in game. Like, honestly, I'm sorry, CG. This is the worst implementation of chat and like all other like communication things that I've seen in any possible MMO game I've played in the past 20 years. 20 years. Like, the ability to communicate in chat with people in Ultima Online was better than in Star Citizen. That's how bad it is. You can at least like press enter, type enter, and it goes there. Or you could press enter /P and it will go to party, or /G and it will go to like guild chat. And the same with whispers, right? I cannot even like consistently whisper a person. Like, even with chat, I'm not even talking about the voice. I cannot do that. That should improve. No shit. About. Like, super short term. We're not like, that should improve like yesterday. Like, come on. You cannot even just directly whisper a person so he see his message. You have to call him, go to your Mobi-Glass, go into the type line in the call and type him, and then it will disappear when you cancel the call, or he cancels the call.
It'll leave the direct message tab option in your chat list. So all the people that we try and ransom, all those direct messages like stay there. So you have to hit tab like a million. I'm at the point where I have to hit tab like 15 times just to get from one combo back to global chat. And it's ridiculous.
100 times in 3.4 when we were doing like piracy in
it's ridiculous.
Jumptown. 100 times I had to press tab. Yo, it's like, come on.
Yeah, it's not in a good state, that's for sure.
So there were a couple other things I wanted to mention too. And I don't know if they're short or long term, but I think they're both on the roadmap for this year. So maybe that's short term.
Yeah, just throw them down, man.
But that's salvage. I'm very excited for salvaging mechanics. For everyone who's F you, you're a terrorist. I'll never pay. Great, that's fine. I will just blow you up and salvage your ship and whatever loot you leave behind. I'm very excited for that to come. Hopefully in some way, shape, or form this year. And I'm also very interested to see what they do with the hacking mechanics. I think there's a lot of potential there to deepen the piracy experience, and to give us a lot more options, maybe for tracking, but also for disabling, and possibly things that I haven't considered yet.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%. The fuck you guy is gonna get just salvaged. I totally agree. It's like we shouldn't rely our gameplay on the compliancy of a third party, right? We shouldn't rely. It shouldn't be like, oh, if I don't want to, you will do no piracy because I'm a dickhead. You're a dickhead. Yes, I'm a dickhead. I know, right? Because that's what I do in this game. But I will be too, and I will not play your gameplay loop because I want to play my gameplay loop. Guess what? No one is playing anyone's gameplay loops, right now. So
Right.
I think like the agreement between a trader and a pirate should be something that does not does benefit them both, right? For example, pirates are not getting their crime stat, and trader is not losing his stuff. Pirates are not spending money, salvaging and picking up stuff. They just get, maybe they will get like less, but that's like an instant income, right? And then the trader still survives. But in the case like the shit hits the fan, like, bro, sorry, like we'll just take your stuff, whatever is left for you. So that's gonna be like another good stuff. Yeah, salvaging definitely. I totally agree.
So, I think probably one of the most interesting points that was brought up, I think, was the whole voice communications and fixing of that. Because, like, who would actually consider that to be a very important thing for piracy? Like, like most people would consider in the wider community, like, we'd be asking for like things that make our job easier from a combat perspective. So, like, make EMP, overpowered so it shuts down ships quicker. Like, let me make the ultimate pirate ship where I can put QED and EMP and, like, size 10 missiles and shit like that on my ship. And I think it's very interesting, like, one of the things that we ask for is just the ability to communicate with the other party better.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of...
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize we don't want any easy ways. We want more challenge. We want it to be interesting. That's all we want. We want it to be like a interesting gameplay loop that will... even at some point, even the third party that is getting pirated will kind of enjoy, if you can say it, right? That's basically all we want. Like, we don't need an easy win button, because if we're gonna have the easy win button, then there will be I cannot be an elitist guy anymore,
Yeah, how can you say that you're better than other people if it's everyone can do it?
Yeah. Everyone will be a pirate then, right? What's the point? That's not interesting, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know if any... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know if I've had any of the people that I pirate with say, like, I wish this were easier. In fact, I would say 90% of them are there because it is a challenging style of gameplay.
Right.
So...
Yeah, we could say, I wish it worked. That's true. But not like I wish it would be easier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, none of us, I don't think any of us became pirates in Star Citizen because we wanted easy gameplay. Like, if we wanted easy gameplay and the ability to make tons of money and still PvP, we'd be bounty hunters. You know what I mean? We would have tracking darts in people's asses, and we would just go do bounty hunter missions and get fat stacked and and just go and do whatever. But no, I like being hunted by bounty hunters. I love flying around red. There's just something about knowing that you're being chased, that someone's after you or potentially after you, and you don't know how many of them are going to show up. It just makes it super fun and interesting. Like, yeah.
Yeah, people like sometimes go, bro, go mine if you need money, you know, all that. And I'm like, bro, I'm the guy that have exploited Carracks, you know, in my hangar, sitting on ArcCorp. I can get 75.5 million by one click of a button. It's not about money. You like, people usually don't understand that because of like we're trying to dig out the piracy stuff, we usually find a lot of stuff no one else finds, or someone finds but never make it public, right? Like, so many exploits are found. The money is never the issue. It's the experience. People just don't get it. They think like we want to like just you know, kill, randomly explode ships in space and you know, and have a fun laugh, and now we want money for that, you know? Oh, you griefers.
It's
Yeah, currently.
Go ahead, Dirty.
Sorry, we'll keep doing that.
Sorry.
I agree. Yeah. Currently, money isn't really a factor, right? Like, if you've been doing it any amount of time, it being piracy, you know somebody who's got billions of AUEC. They're out there. You know, tons of people have all kinds of money. So it's really not a factor for most people. I wish that weren't the case, though. I wish that the economy actually wasn't completely broken. It would just make everything much more interesting. But it is what it is at this point, so, you know, might as well fatten up and buy whatever ship you want while you can do it.
Pretty much.
Oh, actually, a good point. A good point. A short-term or long-term thing they can do that will benefit piracy a lot. I don't know how we didn't speak about it. Is fixing the last few exploits, at least known for me. I obviously will not name them right now. I don't want to spread it even further. I've did enough for that of that. Money exploits and doing a wipe. You know what? That will be a very very motivating thing for piracy and for game community overall. Of course, a lot of people are gonna get like pissed by it because they have like they started with Auroras and they've grinded their way to better ships and they're gonna get wiped. I kind of feel bad for those people, but that's inevitable. That's gonna happen sooner or later. So for the sake of a majority, not even pirates, like just like having some kind of goal, like in community, so people do stuff, I think that will be very beneficial for entire community to be done by CAG and for pirates too.
Yeah, it's kind of a running joke every patch. One of our guys will say, it's coming this patch, we're getting a wipe. We're going to get our wipe, everybody's going to get reset back to 0, and there's just going to be cargo haulers everywhere. It's going to be a pirate's paradise. We're just going to find people cargo hauling all the time. And, you know, it's always that, you know, like he's been saying this pretty much since long-term persistence got brought in. And it's like, look, man, you'll eventually be right. Don't worry about that. But
yeah, someday you'll be right. Yeah, it's
Stay
like
it'll happen.
It's a variation. It's a variation of a combat-oriented community Jesus patch, like combat Jesus patch. You know, every patch is gonna be the next patch is gonna be a Jesus patch, right?
Yeah. One of the short, I guess I call it short term because we already, I don't know, like we kind of have this as a workaround already, and it's a tracking beacon. So one of the tactics that we utilize
someone's ship
is a delivery box to put on people's ships so that we can actually track where it's at.
Oh
and I'd like to see this actually develop further. So it's a bit more nuanced. So, like, we have a tracking device that we can place on a ship, but then you've got to make sure, like, it's a tracking device, so it's got to, you know, like, be coded correctly to whatever device you're using to track that device. So, because if for whatever reason, you know, it's throwing out a radio signal, somebody on that ship could pick up on that radio signal and then go, wait, somebody's trying to track my ship, go and find it, rip it off, put it on somebody else's ship or just throw it out into the void. Then there's also like limiting the range on it, and then like the methods of deployment of a tracking device and things like that could be iterated on and improved on. But it's such a simple and small mechanic that could help us out a lot. And what it does is like we don't need scanning at that point. We don't need any sort of improvements for scanning. We kind of like are taking a gamble when we throw a tracking device on someone's ship, because if we put it on a Cutlass Black, they could be going rock mining. They could be going down to a bunker to do, like clearance missions. They could be just, going to sightsee at Microtech. Like we don't know what they're doing. We're kind of making an educated guess, and we throw the tracking beacon on and see what happens. I see that like there's mechanics already in game that we could probably leverage to achieve what we're looking at for being able to track other ships. So I see that like it could be a short-term thing. More than likely with CIG it'll be a long-term thing, because I'll try and set it up to be more nuanced and try and set up the base so that they can expand on it later on. But that's probably one of the things, like I agree with everything that you guys have said so far in regards to like short-term and long-term mechanics and things that like we're kind of craving for to improve the piracy gameplay loop. But that was kind of like one of the things that I thought was interesting that didn't get brought up, is like a method of being able to track ships. And here's the thing, is that bounty hunters will probably want that too. Like
bounty hunters have already have a CAG-W, right?
Right. Yeah, they don't even need to deploy it. Fucking
it's just magically there. Actually, talking of this, I think some changes to it's like right now what I'm saying is totally pro criminal, so I won't like pretend I'm like kind of not protecting myself here, but doing something with a poll rate of bounty hunter missions, like I don't think the God Eye is going away anytime soon. For bounty hunters, maybe it's gonna go away with 3.14 when they're doing the rework for like FPS radar and scanning mechanics. It might go away if they do it sufficient enough to be able to find someone. Like for example, if there is a criminal EVAing in space and you are able to find him with the new like scanning whatever mechanics. Maybe they're gonna put away the God marker, though. If they're not putting it away, I think something like a poll rate of that thing is in order to be implemented. Like this, like wall hack is just annoying as shit. Like the moment you're at SPK, like they can attack you from first or second floor, for example, anywhere, right? I'm more talking about FPS. I don't really care in ship. In ship, like I will just wreck majority of players unless like there is a specific high skilled group going after me, right? But FPS is just annoying. It makes it not interesting. You're in SPK and they have like all the windows and everything, and you just wait to get executed with no ability to counteract it. So at least something like a polling rate of like once in 10 or like 30 seconds, so they still understand where you are, but they kind of, if you're mobile enough, they kind of have to search for you, not just seeing a marker on top of you. Or when you are in a building or an SPK, it just gives you a generic like marker, okay, he's somewhere inside this building, and it will not directly point on you. Something like that change, which can be easily short term, right? You just change the refresh on that marker. You just don't do it real time. That thing could be like beneficial for overall, not only pirates, just criminals overall, because it's kind of a bit unfair, honestly. When you, it's like people may say, "Oh yeah, don't do the crime if you cannot like serve the time and all that." It's true, true, but I don't disagree with that. You have to always be prepared to go to prison and know how to deal with it. It's just the encounter itself is kind of unfair and just a bit stupid in my opinion.
Like one time, this happened in the last couple of weeks, and this goes into like how bad I think this. Like I hate the God Eye mechanic. Like I think it's dumb the way that they've set it up. And to be honest, I think they've kind of just babied the community when they've done this. in the sense like they've gone, oh, well, you know, like how else are they going to find the bounty? It's like, well, you know, it doesn't have to be real time. And it's funny that you brought this up, Cutlet, because in the previous Mongrel Court, we actually talk about this as well. And one of the things that we said was like, that was brought up was like, just give the marker a tick rate where it updates, you know, like every 10 to 30 seconds. It's not like real time, so that you have a chance. And when they go into FPS, then that's when the marker like kind of stops being real time and you have to start relying on your radar. So it's kind of like ironic that it gets brought up again, like this whole bounty marker issue, and it's like, it's not that the marker is so the issue per se, it's more that it's real time. Like, out of all the things that is able to maintain currency between two clients in the game, somehow, like, we can't hit each other when we're shooting at each other in ships, but a single marker can be updated between two clients to pinpoint your exact position so that somebody else can, like, show up and shoot you.
Yeah, the marker is just basically when you're close up, it's just like inherent to the character. It's just always on top of it. So update it like once every 30 seconds. I think that would be nice. Like once every 10 seconds. I think that's too slow. That's too fast. But like 30 seconds to 60 seconds, that's kind of enough to keep you mobile, and maybe even offset it a bit randomly, right? So you know approximately, yo, this guy's somewhere there. But that's about it. Then it's like it's just it's fair game, kind of fair game, yeah.
Like part of the reason why I don't like running with a crime stat is because, like, depending on what server I'm on, if certain people from certain orgs see that I'm on that server, they start looking for me. And if they start looking for me, I don't want to give them the capability of finding me a lot quicker, because I go from doing piracy to fighting the entire time. Now, with the amount of time that I played Star Citizen 4, I have fought a lot in this game. Like, you know, locking down SPK back in the baby PU when there really wasn't much else to do. But all the way through, like, you know, playing through Arena Commander modules and all that. And getting to this point where we're finally doing piracy, like, that's what I really want to do. I don't mind getting into fights, you know, fighting off their escorts, fighting off, you know, their counter escorts, you know, fighting off their QRF. But then, you know, like fighting off bounty hunters while trying to take that target down, and then being on a server where you've got that notoriety where people get that marker and they always know where you are. And it sort of becomes unfair to the rest of the crew that you're rolling with too, because they want to do piracy as well. And then you end up in this situation where it's like you're about to hit the target, and because they've got a marker to you, if they're smart, and, you know, like some of the people who we've, you know, dealt with have, you know, gotten better at the game over time because they've had to adapt and evolve to the way that we play. They've gotten to the point where it's like they're using our own tactics against us, which is good in one way, but bad in another, because they get the advantage of having a real-time marker on our position when we're running with a crime stat at that level. So for us, we kind of have to, like, depending on the server, depending on the time of day, sometimes we actually have to fly under the radar when it comes to doing piracy and just not run with a crime stat. I know some of the guys like to do it a lot. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to have to deal with. Like, we got a huge merit bank thanks to, you know, a couple of players testing, you know, exploits and then going, all right, yeah, confirmed, it's definitely an exploit. You know, by the way, I've got 15 million merits. I'm just going to divvy it out amongst the guys so that, you know, like, if we, you know, end up in prison because of bugs or, you know, like, by design, you know, we're able to just get back out there and continue testing the game. Because prison,
it's like not. It's like not that we're against fighting, definitely, right? Yeah. It's just like bounty hunters at this point have no consequences for death, right? We at least go to prison, and it stops our, like, pirate gameplay. Bounty hunters can go for you one after another. They just take another ship and they come and die and die again and die again and die again.
Yeah,
and
it just delays their
the
assault
only
for another 10
the
minutes.
only thing that will stop them is them getting bored of dying, right? That's about it. That's the only thing that can stop them. Again, I don't want to sound like, oh, I will kill them all. No, I'm just talking about the majority situations I'm into, right? Majority of situations say they die, especially when I'm not running solo, because they don't think in advance on how to approach it. They just go in, and no one even cares bringing a QED. They think they magically will go in and kill me, and I will not like warp out if I am in danger. I will. I don't care on all this white knight. Oh, let's duel. No. That doesn't work this way in a PU. If I'm threatened, I'll just warp out. And if you didn't bring your friend with a mantis or whatever, it's your problem, not mine. So yeah, unless I stay committed to the fight for whatever reason, they're not even getting me down. But they will keep like coming like just AI NPC ships and dying, and they have no repercussions to doing that. So yeah, it's just whatever it is. At least now they drop the bounty, but yet again, if they have someone as I think in a team who has still the bounty, it can be reshared. If I understand it correctly, so it's kinda the mechanic is still raw for them dropping the ability to see the marker.
Yeah, like I'm all. If they. Here's the thing about that bounty system, like the marker system as well. If they switch it to a tick rate, the next thing, like, I also agree, like, there needs to be a more severe fail state for bounty hunters. They kind of got it there with PvE bounties, as far from what I understand, but they've dialed it back a lot because, well, they were expecting players to fail a lot of PvE bounties, and then it just went the complete opposite direction where the AI is broken to the point where you just show up, shoot a stationary ship, and then leave, making it the most profitable gameplay loop in the game. But the point that I'm getting around to is, like, if they updated the way that the marker worked and they added a failure state to bounties, like, increase the bounty value of criminal players, like, make them so much more valuable in that regard, and make them like,
I agree.
like, getting a level 5 crime stat should be a big deal. Like, getting a level 1 crime stat should be a big deal. But it's more an inconvenience than anything else. It's like a pain in the ass. It's like, shit, I just hit someone that I wasn't supposed to. I now have a like level 1 crime stat. I can't go near any station. If I go near a station, I start getting shot at.
For an average player, right? For an average bounty hunter. Again, I'm not talking about like the elite dogfighters. I will not be able to handle, right? For the average player, what is it harder to do a 87k mission, NPC mission, like, right? Or to kill anyone of us? I think the second one, right? To kill anyone of us, to kill me, to put me down, whatever, you. Even if I'm solo, right? It will still be harder. Why they're getting paid only 20k? I just don't get it. Why?
Yeah.
Why the game mechanics demotivates that like so much? Like, no one will bother besides the guys who will just swarm you, you know, like, and just keep coming just to annoy you over and over again. Like, it happened multiple times. They even just go to a stream and then start to shit talk you or whatever because they die like 10 times in a row. It's like hilarious. I totally feel like the and I was like asking for more, but I totally feel the amount of money for PvP bounties, they should be paid like more, because it makes no sense. You make a dumb like PvE mission pay you almost 100k, and then you get paid 20k for a CS5 guy. It's like it's weird,
especially at CS5. Especially at CS5, right? Because nobody gets CS5 by accident, right? I mean, you honestly got to try to get a CS5.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a little bit of work to do. So, you know, you're gonna, if you're hunting a CS5 bounty, it's more than likely going to be an experienced criminal, and they may have backup with them too. Which, their system doesn't even factor that in at all, and I don't really know how they could, unless they're, getting all of the bounties, but whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I like
like
running. Oh,
yeah. Go ahead.
sorry. I was gonna say I like running CS. Like I said earlier, I think it adds an element of danger and excitement. And I'm bored with the gameplay loop of clearing crime stats. The easiest way for me to do it is to actually die and go to jail and log off when I'm ready to sign off, so I wake up fresh. If I'm bothering to do that at all, which I feel is, I don't know, a little bit lame of a way to do it, but the current system is just a sit and wait fest anyways. So yeah, that's kind of my current position on those topics.
Yeah, I might argue myself saying that this can be easily exploited, right? So you just ask someone to claim your bounty and your friend gets some money. Like, again, I can put up an Eve as an example of how they managed, because they had the same problem, right? No one was doing the bounties because, like, people will just claim it and take they'll just get into the pod. But then they came up with a very good solution. Again, it's not possible in the reality of Star Citizen, and again, because the way they're going to do the economy and all that. But the solution in Eve is, if a bounty hunter kills a bounty, because there are like player plays bounties, right? It's not like in Star Citizen. There are other players who place bounty on your head if they get pissed, for example, or for some lulz or memeing. But the only way the bounty hunter in Eve is getting paid is the amount of financial loss you took from losing that ship. And I think it's only the destroyed components, not the ones that survived. The average market price for those that you lost is paid to the bounty hunter. So you cannot exploit it just like, oh, go kill me, in a noob ship and get the bounty. So I may argue here, like, with myself, because like I'm saying, increase the bounties so it's more fun and motivating, but this can be exploited. But here's the thing: in the state of the game we are right now, right? It's not really important that someone can exploit it. It's like with all the financial exploits there are in the game, it's not really important that someone can get their own bounty for like 100k if you can earn money even easier. So I'm more like, they better do that so it's more interesting and motivating for bounty hunters to actually hunt you properly. But then they should regulate bounty hunting and the god marker, as we've spoken previously, on the other hand, to make it more even and interesting for both parties. Like, I don't know, they gotta do something with that.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, I'm curious.
Another.
Oh, go ahead.
Another issue that I guess I have with, like, and I see this as more a long-term solution. I can see, like, this is something that CIG could do within the next 12 months because of the work that they're doing on the reputation system right now. And that's separating the current crime stat system from our criminal charges in a way that the crime stat system is closer to a heat-based system that diminishes over time, and that your criminal record is something that persists and dictates what you're worth as a bounty. Because when it comes to being a criminal, like, our criminal record, like, they made the joke in, I believe it was CitizenCon 2019? Yeah, 2019, like, your criminal record isn't an achievement list. That's a poor mentality from a game design perspective if you look at it for players who want to build their notoriety as a criminal within the game. Like, your criminal record is your history of what you've done. The problem is that
Right.
like building that criminal record is actually quite easy to do because a lot of the system is automated. You know, like murder somebody in range of a comma ray, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, like that mark is against your name. There should be a little bit more process to it, but when it comes to the way that the crime stat system works, like we should be more incentivized. Like if you want to be a career criminal player, you should be more incentivized to not worry about clearing out your criminal record. Like your criminal record should be one of those things where people are reading out your rap sheet, and the longer it is, the more people start fearing you, because it's like you just, you know, like depending on what you're actually doing, you know, it represents what, you know, like what you've done throughout that entire time. And so like if you're known to be a pirate who just murders the entire crew as soon as like people see you, that's one of the things that should be an option for like how you're perceived amongst the rest of the community. And right now, the current crime stat and the current criminal system doesn't facilitate that sort of thing. Like the reputation system kind of leads into that, but I think like the criminal record that we have right now should be something that persists per jurisdiction, so that you can always go somewhere and start with a clean slate. But at the same time, like if you want to gain notoriety amongst the UEE, like you're the biggest, baddest pirate getting around, then that criminal record needs to persist long enough for you to, you know, be able to build up that reputation. But tying it directly to like a crime stat system where you've always got a mark on your head doesn't make sense in this from the perspective of like there are going to be times where you have to fly under the radar. You know, like pirates, you know, of old weren't stupid when they were doing their thing. Everything that they made was a tactical decision based on, you know, like achieving an outcome. Flying around right now with, you know, like a crime stat on our head, it's a statement. You know, like Coconut Jones and Dirty have said this, where, you know, like they like flying around with the red mark on their head because it makes the encounters more interesting. It's a decision. Like I make a point of not flying around with a red mark on my head because I've got, you know, like a bit of a reputation amongst certain orgs that will come after me as soon as they see that marker. You know, like that bounty, and I'm on the same server as them, they will come looking. It is only a matter of time. So from that standpoint, understanding like there's different levels of like engagement that can be created out of that crime stat system, but with the way that it's set up, it's like it's guaranteed certain things, and sometimes you need that time, you know, like the ability for that crime stat to like bleed off. You need that heat to die off for a bit, and what it stops essentially is, you know, like players sitting there going, you know what, I've got a level 5 crime stat, fuck it, I'm just going to keep going. It's like, alright, I've got this level 5 crime stat, I've got all this fucking juicy loot, instead of just throwing that all away and going, well, it doesn't matter, because if I get caught with this crime stat on my head, I'm done. It's like, alright, I gotta get the hell out of here, let things cool off for a bit. You've still got that criminal record, like those 5 people that you murdered still got put up against your criminal record, but now you've got this opportunity that's created by being able to get away and, you know, like let things cool off for a bit. But the next iteration on, you know, like what happens with how that heat system works is that that criminal record pretty much dictates what level of heat you get as soon as you're recognized. So that's when you start having to actually pay attention to what's going on around you and having to look at how other mechanics work in regards to like being, you know, able to hide your identity, being deceitful in terms of like, you know, masking your ship's identity, and you know, like playing that cat and mouse game and trying to hide from bounty hunters and stuff like that. I believe CIG is going in that sort of direction with some of the mechanics, but the current iteration of what they're doing with the way that the crime stat system works just doesn't make sense to me. It's more like it's all about a very temporary solution to something that doesn't encourage like player agency of taking control of how your gameplay session not only happens then, and also, you know, like the next day, the day after that. You can roll with a level 5 crime stat for weeks on end if you really want to, but Like once you get rid of that level 5 crime stat, you've got that clean slate. People only know you by reputation because we live in a little fishbowl. Wait until we get the wider community involved. When we get server meshing, you're just another name in the list.
Totally. I
Right.
totally agree with that. And again, man, I'm a bit tired comparing this to Eve, but eventually you have to.
You kind of have to.
Well, yeah, you have to. Like, the current, like, I just doubled down on what you said. Like, the current crime stat rating, it just has to be just a heat thing, and that's it. Like, you cannot manipulate your security status in game that easily. Okay, I'll just go to prison, and I'll clear it out. It doesn't make any sense. Like, this is just GTA 5-star heat. The current crime stat. That's what it has to be, and it's a short-term thing, right? There has to be your criminal status, your security status, in the different jurisdictions and authorities, that is much more permanent. That is much more permanent, and it should create like a problem for you, if you can call it a problem, or maybe vice versa. You want that, right? And it shouldn't be easy to get rid of it in a short term. It's like if you want to really go blue, if you've done a lot of bad stuff, you need to grind your way through different methods, like reputations and all that. And it shouldn't be I go to prison and I log off, and now it's gone. It makes no sense in an MMO game like this, where you can create a lot of bad stuff, like cause a lot of troubles to other players and a lot of monitor loss, and you should be kind of able to do that. But and in the same at the same time, you cannot just get rid of what you've done by going to prison and going to log off or whatever, just track it down easily. That's just the heat. I think it should be much more in depth and much more permanent in future, right? I'm totally on the same page with this. It just makes no sense right now. We need longer persistent consequences for what we do, and that will again be just better gameplay for everybody, for both criminals and people like bounty hunters and legal people who hunt us, whatever, yeah.
So there's one thing that I'm curious if you guys have the same curiosity of mine. CIG has done this thing with has painted us this picture with Drake Interplanetary and the Cutlass Black as having this reputation as the poster child of what's supposed to be piracy and Star Citizen. And I'm curious, I personally think they haven't achieved this to the point where it's actually a viable ship for piracy. I'm curious what you guys think of potentially what might actually give the Cutlass Black more tools in its toolkit to promote that kind of a reputation.
Tractor beams. That's one of the things is gonna have. It's gonna have tractor beams, which will allow you to grab stuff and stop ships. That's why it was initially proposed as a pirate ship. It's cheap compared to other ships of its scale. It's maneuverable enough. It has good firepower, decent one, and tractor beams. It's the main thing. You will be able to grab SCU units from other ships and transfer it into Caddy Black, and you will be able, hopefully, to stop the ships from drifting or whatever, to kind of proceed with the boarding procedures. And side doors, actually, compared to blue and red, are very convenient for the future imaginary gameplay, like pirate gameplay. I think that's the main reason why CAG thinks it's gonna be because tractor beams, Like, I don't know how we go in future with this. Like,
Right.
how the like utility slots or like whatever non-combat slots are gonna get managed, because that's totally theory crafting right now. It has nothing to do
Right.
to deal with the reality. But at least we know that a Cuddy Black will be able to have like one or multiple like tractor beams on it to help with that.
Right.
That's gonna
I
be a
think-
decisive factor.
I think the black currently does have one purpose, although it's, I don't know, really low on the list of things to do as a pirate. But if you do happen to find that caterpillar or carrack that's full of loot, and you do happen to blow it up, Cuddy Black's got enough room to bring back the loot that you're going to end up finding, and you only really need one of them to do it.
Right.
Yeah, it's
That's
gonna be
one.
him.
That's one purpose I've found for him currently. But I think to add, again with the salvaging mechanics, once we get those in, and we end up doing that more and more, I think it will make more sense to bring the Cuddy Black, and it's a little bit more cargo capacity, but can also bring some firepower to the table. I think it will have more of a role at that point.
Yeah, like if you compare it to other similar ships, what, a Valkyrie that will requires a lot of people to actually dish out some firepower, right? If you're just a pilot,
Right.
it's less maneuverable than a Cuddy Black, but and the firepower is just miserable as a pilot. And then what, a freelancer, it can give you the same firepower than a Cuddy if Cuddy is fixed, but the maneuverability is just unfucking comparable. Like, it's just a flying dildo. That's about it. Like, we don't have that many of options there, if you think. Like,
Right.
On that scale, Vanguards, they don't have cargo, and they don't have like that utility. What? I don't even know. What else, right? That it's just a matter of a bit of time for a game to get more refined mechanics when we actually will see Cuddy Black kicking in with its utility.
Right.
And maybe that's the time when people will start to question less. Oh, you don't love Dre, give Cuddy a second shield. No, fuck no. If Cuddy will get a second shield, it will become an OP, like, crazy bullshit shit the moment it gets
Right.
the second shield. Unless you're totally bad with the game overall. Yeah, it's gonna be OP.
It'll
It doesn't need a
basically be
second
every
shield.
other medium-sized ship at that point, for sure. One of the
Yep.
reasons I wanted to bring this up is because, well, from the original concept to the rework that we're all used to now, it had some very interesting like pirate utility like some extra functionality that pirates definitely could make the most use out of, which they had docking collars back in the day and a breach cutter to potentially open up the things that you would be docking to. And it also had a hatch that you could just crawl right into the cockpit from. And we lost all of that during this rework. And it kind of
I think because they made more like they improved their vision, their own internal vision on breaching, right? And I think they thought at that point, we don't really need like this docking collar on a Cuddy Black. I think that's one of the reasons. Because when you're like breaching, you're probably using some kind of brute force. You don't really need the color. I mean, you can still do that, right? But do you
Right.
really like need the color? And because the side doors give you much more utility in the end, much more generalistic utility. So I think that was a kind of specific move towards that. And the cutter, I don't know, maybe it's gonna have it. Like I don't know. Like we don't know until it's there, right? We don't know how the
Right.
tractor beam will work. It's just all our imagination. Like I don't even know how the tractor beam and caterpillars and Cuddies will be able to bring the cargo inside of the ship. Like no one knows. We'll see. We have to see. But yeah, it is. I think it is still the pirate ship. It is one of the best pirate ships. It's never a miss to get a Cuddy Black, I think.
I think eventually, sorry, I have to go as muted there. I think eventually, we may even see a use for the caterpillars when you have like Hull E's and the really large cargo ships that are going to be spilling a whole lot of loot. It might actually make sense to at least have one of those in the back pocket that you can bring out. I don't know about
totally.
a dedicated
Right.
flyer, but I'm waiting for the day, honestly, where it makes sense for me to pull that thing out.
Oh
Right.
yeah, a cat will be a thing because it has 2 tractor beams to the left and to the right. Like the industrial big tractor beams. Honestly, you don't really have to wait for Hull E's and any of the hulls to be in game for that. You just have to wait for us to have a possibility to transfer cargo, because when you're capturing the patch, we're able to take like proper SCU units, right? When you're capturing another caterpillar, right, or a Hercules or a Carrack with cargo, what will you use to transfer those big SCU units? You don't need Hull E's for that. You will need a caterpillar. You will need or you have to run a crew of like 10 cutties, because like what to get in 460 units of cargo, it is 10 cutlasses, right? 10 cutlass blacks. Because the moment
Right.
we're no longer dealing with the small handheld boxes, a pirate caterpillar is going to be a real thing, and it will stop being a meme at that point. Also, don't forget, a caterpillar can fit different modules inside, right? So it would probably be able to fit like something like a med bay instead of one of the cargo slots, like whatever. It's gonna be a versatile thing in future, but that again, that's like theory craft over 9,000. Whenever that's gonna be a thing, it's like it's I don't know, man. It's
Soon
I
TM.
don't really get into that
Yeah.
theory crafting a lot, because that's like whenever it's done, it's done. Before that, it's all the imagination for space dads and their like hanger JPEG circle jerking, right?
I think with the Cutlass Black, like it's a good example of early marketing from CIG where they've gone, all right, this is a vision of what we think piracy is going to be. And, like you're going to have to physically dock with the ship. And you're going to have to, like, get into that ship to be able to, like, take it. And then the idea behind, like how you transfer that cargo off. Like, do you actually need to transfer the cargo off? Can you just take their ship and just fly it wherever you need to? Well, then, what are the consequences of that? What mechanics are involved with, flying that ship somewhere else? And we start going down that, that merry lane of fucking theory crafting where, we're going to be telling our grandkids the story of, how piracy used to be when they're finally getting that mechanic where we're actually, able to know how those things actually work. And, we'll tell them the history of how we got to this point. To be honest, like, my mentality when it's always come towards, like, any sort of, like, piracy ship and the utility behind it is, like, whatever gets the job done. And that's kind of what the Cutlass Black is supposed to represent, is something that's kind of almost like a blank slate from a certain degree. Like, you can almost, like, make it do anything that you need it to do. It's kind of like that everyman ship. You can do piracy with the Cutlass Black now. It's just not going to be like that cool, sexy, EMPs going off, QED, right there. It's more or less like you got to make sure that you're hitting the right places. Like you hang out at Trevor Myers on Selin and you're waiting for that caterpillar to come in to do that diamond run, and then you come in, slot whoever's the pilot as they're coming out of the outpost, and then you're cracking doors on the ship to get somebody in there. And right now you'd be destroying the ship to pick up those handheld boxes, but then when you're looking at transferring those boxes, you may like end up going, well, we've got this huge ship that the box is already loaded in. Let's just move that somewhere else. Take that ship somewhere else, and then that's when you start looking at, all right, how do we, extract value from this ship? Who knows? But that's once again going down that merry lane of theory crafting. There's different levels of piracy, and one of the things from my own perspective when it came to like where we're at right now is when the rock was introduced, I hated the fucking thing. I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. I'm like, mining got another fucking vehicle. Until the next patch when we're able to access the inventory box, and I went, holy shit, CIG fucking just, like introduced piracy and made it legit. Like...
Yep.
the rock,
totally. I agree.
At its core level is piracy in its smallest form factor. It's a vehicle that carries something of value that you can access the inventory of, extract its cargo for yourself, and take it somewhere to sell. Like, that is piracy, and it's like, if you want the MVP of piracy, you've got it right there. Then it's everything else that gets added on top of it. Like being able to lock it. That's a security system. Well, ships are lockable, but, the Rock's cargo inventory box isn't. I don't understand why not, but hey, it'll come eventually, right? But when you look at it from that perspective, like, CIG's already kind of alluded towards what they want with piracy, and that's removal of the cargo from one vessel and putting it onto another. So, like, right now it's the complete removal of, the cargo value and putting it onto another. But then we start looking at, alright, well, if a Cutlass Black is supposed to be that utility ship for piracy, it may end up being like, like the ship that carries the boarding crew on, when you're doing your hit, and you'll have your EMPs going off and your QED there, and it's the Cutlass Black that you're taking, and you've got your boarding crew on it, because once you've hit the target, you're going to transfer that cargo off onto the Cutlass Black, because dealing with a ship that's just been hit by, pirates, that the bloody owner's sitting there going, I've just been pirated, they start reporting security, they start, security is now looking for that specific ship. There's a whole plethora of things that can actually come out of that particular scenario, but having a Cutlass Black there, getting hold of the ship's manifest, extracting the most valuable cargo that you can get out of it, because right now, ships moving just one specific type of cargo isn't going to be like the norm. It's going to be like ships will move multiple different types of cargo in one hit, and they'll be like, alright, certain bits of that cargo will more than likely be more valuable than others. We'll take the valuable stuff, leave the shit stuff that we don't, want to take the valuable stuff, and piss bolt to go and sell.
Yeah, because if we're talking like, that Imagines thing, you have to understand, like, ships, when you pirate a ship, right? It all sounds cool, like the argument, hey, why do we even bother? Why don't we just like steal a caterpillar and just sell it, right? Just bring the cargo inside of a caterpillar and sell it. Though we have to understand certain things. Besides the things that you said about like reporting to security and that like ship having super heat on it, right? What other things, what state that ship is going to be in after being pirated? Maybe it's going to have like disabled engines. Maybe it will have like broken power plant. Right. How long it will take you to repair this ship, like this caterpillar, for example, right? To be actually able to fly in it with the cargo. Or you'll be dead before that. That's the question. So, like when we will have the actual gameplay mechanics, it may not be a thing that we just as like again talking about the EMP and all that stuff that I had a talk with the developer. Like, they don't want you to be able to easily put down the power of the ship, and that's understandable. I was talking about this from the standpoint of self-destruct, but let's just remove that from the discussion. So you will have to put an effort to disable a ship, not just chain EMP and just board it, right? So if you've input so much effort to disable it, I doubt it you will be able to board it and then kill the pilot and then go, okay, let's power it and go. No, the shit will be broken. So taking it to sell probably won't be an easy option, right? You'll have to grab the valuable stuff into your working ship, which should probably be like the Cuddy flag, unless you're working with the bigger stuff like a caterpillar, right? And just get the fuck out before you get just blown up to pieces by security. So yeah, that's a good point, I think.
But there's also like the possibility that the crew sabotages their ship. They recognize they're getting pirated. All of a sudden, like they just go to the power plant and like start pulling things out, start shooting it, damaging their own ship, with the understanding that if they hold out long enough against the pirates and prevent those pirates from being able to get away, that those pirates, the longer that we have to stay there, the more vulnerable that we are. So like being able to understand, like sometimes getting a little bit of something is better than getting a whole lot of nothing. So having a Cutlass there as a smaller ship, it's less descript. It has like the capability of being able to throw enough into it. We can still use it for combat. We can still like throw guys in the back. But with the gun mounts coming, we'll probably be able to slap one down and one of the side doors and use that to like engage targets as well. Like there's a level of utility that could be introduced that goes into a realm of theorycraft, and that would cause us to sit here for hours on end, discussing the possibilities.
Oh, well, we can actually discuss it until those possibilities actually are there, so we can discuss it for like another few years, I think. Yes, there's so much to discuss.
Yeah.
Right.
I still think it's been a victim of marketing to a certain degree, where it's like
totally.
The initial stance of like this was what piracy was going to be. Like this is like having that convenience of being able to get in through the front and the docking collar and stuff like that. Piracy at its core is just about taking stuff from somebody else, like stealing. So like there's once again like Cutlet doing solo piracy with an Aurora. Like realistically, all you need to have is like the ability to get from one place to another, grab whatever somebody else has, put it on your own ship, take it back to somewhere else, and sell it off. The Cutlass Black can fit
it's like sometimes people tell me, "Oh, you're not a pirate. You'll just bet a little thief." I'm like, "No shit, bro. Can you define piracy?"
Yeah.
That's what I do. I take your stuff and sell it. Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Call me whatever.
Or in this case, a ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you are just a thief, not a pirate. Like, excuse me? Is there much difference, right?
We're getting you confused with those Disney pirates, mate.
Oh yeah, yar.
All right.
Breaks in the song.
I think we've covered, like we've talked a lot. This is going to take a while to edit, but we've talked a lot, and I think it's been some pretty good discussions on these points, especially coming from a wide swath of experience when it comes to piracy. So I think we'll wrap it up there, guys, for this discussion on making piracy work. So I would just like to take time to thank the guys here in the podcast. So Space Cutlet all the way. On my right, your left, you got Space Cutlet over there. You got Capt Dirty in the middle, and the guy who's got not only a name but also a statement. They call me Coconut Jones. Thank you very much, guys, for participating in this discussion. I appreciate the time that you guys have put into this. The details for all of these guys, they're all content creators. They're going to be in the description below with links there so that you guys can go find them directly. Highly recommend that you guys go follow them, subscribe to them, support them, use them as inspiration. Hell, if you want to go cuss them out, please go right ahead. Fucking take some heat off me and Mongrel Squad. Go fucking call them griefers as well on their YouTube channels and on their Twitch streams as well.
Yo, my alt account is called Griefer. Come on.
Go and support them, guys. Take inspiration from them, and yeah, like we're gonna switch over to the conclusion. We hope that this provided some insight into thoughts on some active pirate players about making piracy work within Star Citizen. Mongrel Court is looking for guest speakers from active pirate orgs. If you're interested in joining in on a Mongrel Court session, the criteria for consideration is as follows. Your main org must be a pirate org. You must provide video evidence of you conducting piracy operations within the last 4 weeks. Staged or simulated submissions will not be considered. The videos do not need to be edited or on a public streaming service like YouTube or Vimeo. Next month's topic of discussion is piracy and PvP. If you have any questions or discussion points you would like to discuss on the topic of piracy and PvP, feel free to drop them in the comments below. If you like what you saw, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, and set the notification bell on so you get to see our new content drops that we put out on a weekly basis. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you next time when court is in session.